Hello, everybody. Welcome to Jacket Jockeys with Justin.
And me, the other jacket jockey, Jennifer, Jen, the
You sure
jacket
it's not
jockey.
Gen?
Should we get? Oh well, let's get into that. I was gonna suggest that we get
It's
jackets
the
that say
debate of the
jacket
week.
jockeys,
Jacket Jockey,
jacket jockey
Jacket
one, jacket
Jockey
jockey two.
Jackets, or
Exactly.
Jackets Jockey.
Yeah. Well, I think at every time in the credits, the yellow jackets on a jacket closes out the opening credits. It's a yellow jackets jacket.
Yellow Jacket,
Plural,
Yellow Jackets
multiples.
Jacket.
The
Yeah,
yellow jackets wear yellow jacket jackets.
right.
Yellow jackets jackets.
Yellow Jackets Jackets,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, one thing I don't like about that is that as an adjective, it shouldn't have the plural ending. But anyhow, yes, we got to spend. If you have something that's plural, but you use it as an adjective,
Isn't that okay?
I
Like
I don't
a,
know. It feels wrong.
like a,
I just think a yellow
a
jacket's
New
jacket is
York
a New York.
Giants jersey. Like, don't you say that?
I'm never talking about the New York
Well, me
Giants.
either, but I'm just saying.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll let me think on it.
No?
It sounded wrong, but let me give it a think later after broadcast.
Have a little
Hey
think on
everybody,
it.
we have a name to the podcast
Yeah,
now.
we've named it.
Right,
It's
just
been
in time.
named.
Yeah.
There's a logo that's really pretty
It took us a
professional.
long time to make
Yeah,
with
definitely.
sophisticated training and
Uh,
tools.
yeah, we got a home. This is your one-stop shop for everything Yellow Jackets.
Except for the things yellow that are not here.
Look no further. There's nothing else.
There's
This is all
nothing
there is.
else.
Don't even watch the
Don't watch the
show.
show. Just listen to the.
Just that's
It will be a very richly rewarding experience to listen to this podcast without having watched the show.
if there's any of you out there who are listening but not watching the show, please write in. I only want to hear from you actually. If you are watching the show, do not write in to jacketjockeys@gmail.com. That's right, it exists. I
Really?
made it. There's an email
Wow.
address. Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, we're set up. We got a Twitter too, at Jacket Jockeys. Check us out. Give us a follow. Like things.
Why? Why?
Promotion.
Okay. Well, I think there might be some multiple steps, not just the one, but we'll
That's all I do.
we'll get back to that
That's all I
later.
got.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you got other ideas, we need
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. I love it. Maybe we can make some like cheeky TikTok videos with content from the show. Um, and
I heard they banned TikTok in Montana. So
oh, well, we
what
are
are our
broadcasting from Montana.
what are our Montanan fans gonna do?
Mont fans,
Montan fans?
Montan fans. Hi.
Hi everybody. Oh, who let you in?
This is episode
Oh,
3.
sorry. Today we'll be covering season 2, episode 3 of Yellow Yellow Jackets, entitled Digestif.
Yes, indeed, which we all know is something that you sip after a meal to aid in
A nice
digestion.
hearty meal.
And um, the hearty meal in question, presumably being the eating of our first human,
I think so. I think that must be what
first
they
but not
mean.
last.
It is a break with the theme because the previous two had sort of a classic tragedy reference, and as far as I know, there's no classic tragedy related to Digestif. May
Um,
I mean,
Sais pas. Let us know.
es como okay, we won't do
Yeah,
that.
it does seem like if you're going to eat an entire human in one sitting, I know they shared her and she's small,
They shared
but
her. Yeah,
a digestif doesn't look like a
Digestif.
good idea. Um,
I heard Digestif.
some people seem to be digesting the meal better than others.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. It was
Some people seem surprisingly untroubled.
it was hard for it to go down for some, but others found it to be a very
Hit the spot.
gastronomically sasatisfying experience,
Yeah.
and they wanted more.
And they wanted more.
They wanted
No,
more.
only
They
two
thirsted for
people
more,
thirsted for
if
more.
you will.
Only two people admitted to thirsting for more.
That's true.
One of
Two
them,
counts as some,
one
right?
of them being Jennifer.
Get no, that's not Jennifer.
Oh,
What is
that's not
her name?
Jennifer.
Oh man, I think her name's Crystal.
Crystal. Okay.
Yeah, Jennifer is the one who
Oh,
Ben
oh, in the
sees
vision.
with the
Yeah.
like foamy mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just, but I'm sure you've got a way you want to get into this.
I sure do.
So
I'm
maybe we
sitting
should
here on
just
some
get
notes.
get on
You want to
into it.
fucking you want to do it? You want to do
Yeah.
the podcast? I thought we were still
No,
preambling.
well, I
Well, if
just,
you're
yeah.
ready, we can go.
Well, no, we can keep preambling, but there were just two things that I just wanted to say.
Please.
As
This
part,
is your platform.
I guess this is part of the preamble. One, stylistically, a very different episode,
Yes.
and two, the line, uh, teenage Nat's line. I think things are gonna get a lot worse. Excellent, excellent. Anyway,
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I think um I think there is something about this show, like the way it works structurally. Lost had a bit of this with the flash forwards, but I think in that case it ended up being a bit of a wet fart. But like in this case, we know for a fact that things got real bad. We don't know all the details, but we've seen, I mean, even just what we've seen besides the first scene, but the first scene makes it clear that like it gets really intense. And there's some implications of some lines in this episode too of that, of like how bad it got. But I mean, we've already seen, some pretty rough times. And so like there's this quality that it has that I was thinking like, oh, it is almost like classic Greek tragedy in the sense that we sort of know
yeah,
where they're ending up, but we're watching it play out slowly, and it's like that dread of what's coming,
yeah,
at least for the past storyline.
yeah.
The future storyline has the sort of extra thing that we don't really know where it's going, so that's where they get the kind of uncertainty in the plot, like more so at least, because it's like not there's no defined endpoint, whereas like they get rescued, we know at a certain, like it's going to get to whatever point it gets, including pit girl and all that ritual stuff, and then they're going to get rescued,
Mhm.
and seemingly like just go their separate ways and chill for like 20 years. There's a little bit of a debate about a certain line in this episode. I don't really care about it actually. I think they just messed up, and it was just an oversight, and it's like that thing where Widmore's like, I've been looking for this island, or someone said Widmore's been looking for this island for 20 years, and it's like you do the math and you're like, I don't think that works. Like it's like 12, like you really round 12 up to 20, anyway, whatever.
Was it an English language learner? Because I feel like those two words are easy to confuse, 12 and 20. So that might have been what happened.
I don't think it was an English language learner, but
I'm just, English isn't
I guess it could
easy.
have been son.
Mhm.
I don't think it was, but it
No,
could
I
have
don't.
been.
Why would she know anything
But
about
I'm just
Before
thinking of
Widmore?
characters that count as English
Yeah.
language
Do you remember
learners.
when I thought that Sun's dad and Widmore were going to be in cahoots on something?
Yeah,
They really did not write the show
they
this
said they
odd.
played golf together. Does that not count as cahoots?
Mm, I've never played golf, so I'm not sure. So what is this line? What's the
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, because we can just so basically when it's a scene with Jeff and Kevin with a Y, where in the gym, he goes up to him and he's saying like, I I've been married to Shauna for almost 25 years, right? And it's like, um so I didn't actually remember this, but there was some indication in season one that they got married about 4 or 5 years after the rescue. So that just doesn't add up with the timeline where it's 25 years later already at the beginning, from the crap,
he
so
likes to round up.
it doesn't, it's like that math doesn't cut it. He should have said 20 years. I think that would have been more correct. I think they got confused about when they got married versus when the rescue happened.
I
I,
definitely did not notice.
I know, like I said, it doesn't really matter, but it just, that's what that reminded
Yeah,
me of,
yeah.
because I feel like it just got a little, the hate just got a little
That
much.
scene. That scene. All right. Well, we'll talk
Yeah,
about
we're
that
gonna
scene
get there. We're
in
gonna get
due
there.
course.
So is that all you wanted to say before we, dive into this
I mean, things aren't looking good for Coach.
business? I mean, things weren't looking good before, but yeah, things are looking even worse now.
Yeah, they weren't looking good, but they've really taken a nosedive.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, I wrote this thing, and I'm gonna come back to that real soon. Actually, I'm not one to gloat, but I wrote this thing before season two started, and one of the things I said was like, how did Coach Ben die? Because we know he's going to get eaten, and I said I suspect he'll be the first one to be eaten, which is because I didn't think they were going to eat Jackie, and I was just
Yeah.
wrong about that.
Yeah.
If I thought, I mean, Jackie was the most obvious first one, and I should have like just said except Jackie, and then I would have been dead on because I do think he'll be next. I mean, he's the most on the edge right now in terms of like
He definitely.
he's starving,
Yeah.
he's not eating the only food they have, and he's like in this delirium for the whole episode with like he has like one line early on, but he almost doesn't speak in the present for the entire episode, even though it's like almost his episode in terms of the flashbacks, like or whatever you want to call the delirium dream slash flashbacks. There's a fine line there. I feel like some of them maybe are actual flashbacks, and some of
Memory.
them,
Yeah.
obviously, one in particular
Yeah,
is not.
yeah, I interpreted them as reliving memories and then, fantasy.
Wishful thinking about what could have been,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
along those lines, regrets
yeah.
of like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's sort of like where is this headed? Because we know he gets on the plane with a bunch of condoms. So,
yes, yes. And see, that's interesting. I thought, yeah,
yes.
I they laid the groundwork. Like I feel like in a way they had to write it like this. It worked well too for the point they want to make in this episode, but like my first thought was like I thought last season at least, I thought Paul lived in Seattle. And I thought that
Oh,
was the point. But then I was like, oh, were you about to do a bunch of cheating? Like, what's going on? But like, then this episode makes clear that he basically issued an ultimatum and he did go. So like he considered himself broken up at that
yeah,
point, and that's why he had the
yeah.
condoms,
Single looking to mingle.
which does work. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay. Not bad, not bad.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if they always
It's
remember everything they do, but they definitely remembered that.
yeah.
Oh, you know what? I have to before we really dive in, this is just gonna be my weekly check-in. Postcards? Nope, nothing about the postcards. So maybe next time. Who knows? You're getting this one late, so the next one is actually already out. So some of you
Oh
might
no. Okay.
already know if there's postcards in the next one,
We have
but
not watched it.
I will
We do not know.
report. Yeah, yeah, no spoilers because we haven't seen it. So we're gonna watch it after this. So there's that, and then the other thing is Jessica Roberts. So they're gonna talk about Jessica Roberts.
Oh,
And there is actually a brief reference to Jessica Roberts with Thais trying to call her in this episode. So will we actually get something concrete there, or was it just a little Easter egg? I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, those are my like check-in things that I was like talking about in the little preamble before the season of like my questions and stuff I was wondering about and yeah, I just feel like it's odd the way they haven't mentioned the postcards makes me think that they kind of want to drop them because they haven't like maybe they just want us to think Jeff sent them and we're done. Like I'm just not really sure, but it just feels awkward that if they were going to say something that they haven't yet. So, because it seems like if Lottie sent the postcards, that should have come up by now. You know, Natalie knows about him. That's the whole reason that she went to back to Jersey in the first place. That's why she left the convent, the the
the intentional
the
community.
rehab
Oh, the
the
rehab.
rehab facility to go because she thought Misty sent the postcard,
Right, right.
and she goes to Misty, and then that leads to everything else after that because she
Yeah.
finds out Misty also got one, and that leads to Travis, and like to me it just feels like how does she not ask, how does it not come up yet, like Lottie, you sent the postcards, right? Like I'm just surprised they haven't checked that box yet. Anyway.
Okay, so yeah. Now that you lay it out like that, though, makes me wonder if they are going to bring it back up. But I understand what you mean, that it does sort of feel like they want us to forget about it. But
Yeah, because they talked
um,
about Travis right away, you
uh-huh.
know, basically. Like the first thing Lottie says is like, I got a message from Travis, you know.
Yeah. So I know we're gonna talk about this later, but um, Elijah Wood's character has to know who Misty is,
100%.
but hasn't said anything about it yet. And Misty hasn't, maybe because there hasn't been anybody around to say it too, but Misty ought to know that he knows who she is. Like, they're both these citizen detective people. And so, like, there was such a thing in season
Oh,
one that about, like, oh, Adam knows who you are, mom. That's why
yeah.
he wants to. But
All you
there
gotta do
has
is
not been,
Google.
yeah, there's
It
been
doesn't
no,
even take like fancy research
exactly.
to find that out.
And so my thought is that she should be really nervous about this guy showing up like
Yeah,
this.
that's a good point, you know, and there's that scene where she's she's having him ask about Natalie and he says her name like he has no idea who he's talking
And
about.
he knows
But he
exactly. He
should,
should know,
right?
he should know exactly who that
Because if he
is.
cares that much about Misty, surely he looked into the details of this crazy event that she lived through, you
Yeah.
know? Like there's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
And
point. I hadn't thought about that.
and and then I think the thing that follows is, how long before they find out Shauna's connection to Adam. It's just so, like, walking on, that's not, what is the
Wait,
phrase?
who finds out? The
Elijah Wood.
yeah, okay, okay.
Because it's like,
Yeah.
we've got these three people
Because
who,
like Misty sort of knows. It's just she is misled about one aspect of
right.
that
So
story.
so but so Misty knows that Shauna had an affair with Adam.
Oh, right, but she lied about the reason she was downvoting. So I
Yeah.
guess that does set the stage for like Walter could figure out that she's lying and there's more to that his theory's correct basically. Like that is pretty much what happened.
And if he starts wondering who's Jeff,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and
Because
and
Jeff comes
finds
up.
out there's a Jeff, like, so now he knows that what's his name went to high school with them.
Yeah, yeah.
Biographies will all say that Sean is married to
Which
Jeff.
he didn't know that either.
And
So
he's poking around the Adam
he's
case.
like, oh, he's gonna pose as the FBI and interview this guy, and he didn't. I just, yeah, something about that's weird.
Yeah.
That didn't bother me at all. But now it's like, wait, you didn't look him up and find out that he went to high school with Misty? Like he
And
acted like he was surprised. Like,
right. And so Misty doesn't know that Jeff knows about Adam, right?
yes, that is. Well, yeah, I think that's correct. I guess you might think that Jeff believes the same lie she does. You know, that Adam was doing the blackmail. Like I don't know for sure what Shauna. I don't think she actually said anything directly about what she told Jeff to them on screen. So we
Mm,
can definitely assume that she doesn't know that Jeff knows, but like she could believe. I'm just saying
yeah.
like
Yeah. I just
it's
that's
layers
gonna
of
that's
deception.
clearly gonna boil over. But I just think from a writing standpoint, Misty, and as I said, it's like there's no one around for Misty to say this to.
Yeah,
Except maybe Caligula. I don't
Caligula.
know. But
Yeah.
she should already be super suspicious of Walter's appearance on the scene.
I agree. Yeah, it's strange, and I definitely think that the stage is set for some, you know.
If Jeff doesn't step in at first with his fool ass self going up to Kevin
Oh God.
with a Y.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's like and he knows that Shauna murdered Adam.
Yeah,
He knows for a fact that that happened,
yeah,
and he's just making her look more guilty.
yeah.
It's
And
like,
now
oh,
he
she was
knows.
upset, huh? Interesting. Like,
Yeah,
it's like, shut up. What are you doing? You're gonna like try to bully a police officer to not like what
yeah,
the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
yeah,
that was so oh
yeah.
man.
Anyway,
Yeah. No, you're right. He's I don't know what he's thinking. Yeah.
also Shauna in the chop shop. Oh my god.
Indeed. Yeah.
What a scene.
Yeah. We got to talk about that because
Yes.
there was some like I've seen it 3 times now, and there was something about that on the third time that I was like, oh, the implications of this are actually a bit more than I realized the first time. I want to say more about that, but I think I'll wait until we actually get there because I
Sounds
have
good.
a few things to say about that scene.
Sounds good. And
But
then
I
we could
do agree
compare,
that that is a notable scene.
yeah, and we'll compare your third time reaction to my first, because I have only watched it once.
Yeah, you always take in more than I do. It I get distracted by certain things, and it just like I just miss certain obvious points because my head's over here, and
Mhm.
I'm fixated on this one thing, and then I can't.
Yeah.
I don't quite digest the full implications of what's happening on screen, you know?
Your listeners are familiar.
I mean, that's why in the old days, I would watch multiple times.
Yeah.
Like it helped me to like get everything
Yeah.
because I just can't. But I don't know. You usually catch things in one shot. So anyway,
Wow. You do
um,
call me one shot Jen
one shot again.
again.
Um, yeah. All right. So
Excuse me, sorry.
shall we begin the process of
Begin.
digestion?
Yeah, let's begin.
All right. So we open up on a sort of VHS-ish
Yeah.
delirium dream. They use this VHS effect to sort of show the delirium. I don't know, because it's the 90s. I'm not really sure why. It's weird. One of the stylistic things you're talking about
Hmm.
that's like it is. I mean, they do film the title sequence vaguely in that
Yeah,
style,
yeah.
so it's not completely out of step with that. But they haven't really used it in the main part of the show, I think, before. Like,
Yeah, but it gives this kind of, in the context, almost like a sort of, it seems like a distancing mechanism.
yeah.
And but it's got a it's got a tangibility to it because it references this more tangible medium as opposed to something else that you could use, like a hazy kind of, or like a sepia tone. There's different ways that you can create this distancing effect visually. um
Yeah.
and opening with it
Yeah.
is really interesting, and it's sort of, and maybe this is playing with the title as well, this digestif idea of like almost like a hangover
Mm-hmm.
kind of a vibe.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
the jerkiness, and
Yeah.
it's uh what is the word for the thing that I'm doing with my hands? Destabilizing.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
Anyway,
So it's a VHS-ish delirium dream of Coach Ben, and he's thinking about, the rest of them eating Jackie. We see a clip of that. We see Jackie's like bone hand, like aftermath. And then we see him at Paul's, the boyfriend mentioned in season one, apartment. They have a brief sort of fight about like clam chowder, and then they make up, and it's kind of just a brief scene like, oh, okay, weird time to just throw this in. You don't really know what's going on with that at that point. And when I saw it the first time, I was like, this is a weird time to throw this in, but okay. Anyway, once they got to the end, I got the point. But I think from here it's sort of unclear. Anyway, we come right out of that, and we see Natalie looking at Jackie's corpse, picked clean, and then Thaisa comes out and is shocked to see what happened to Jackie. Apparently, she doesn't know.
yeah.
Van comes out and tells her the truth. She gags. She says, I must have been sleepwalking. And Van says, but you talked to me. And finally, you ate her face.
Yeah.
And
Ugh.
then Ty vomits, and we go into the
We
credits.
all vomited. Yeah, never say that to a person. Okay. They say don't wake up somebody when they're sleepwalking. good advice. Don't wake up somebody who's sleepwalking. Don't tell someone that they ate somebody's
Don't spit in the
face.
wind.
Don't spit in the wind. Always flush twice. Don't tell somebody that they ate a face. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Okay, so somebody, I love that line though. It's like somebody ate.
Yeah.
Oh my God, something, no, something ate
Yeah.
Jackie's body.
Yeah.
We ate Jackie's
Yeah.
body. It's so good. Van, I think, is cruising for heartache.
Yeah, clear. I mean, we already know they're not together, right? Like, assuming Van survived, we
Which
don't know.
she
We don't know for sure
definitely.
if Van survived. Okay, like I don't care. I don't care who the credits say might have red hair and is older, but
Look, only 0.0000005% of the population have red hair. So
and like literally in season one, people were saying Lauren Ambrose should play her
really?
as yeah. People were saying that
Uh
before they even did the casting. They're
yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, get Lauren Ambrose to play Adult Van, and it's like, anyway,
But do you think
we don't know for sure, right? It could be anybody. It could be anybody.
it would
Sorry,
be such a troll move if they cast her to do something else?
it would be hilarious, actually.
But is it? I wonder which one it is. Have they already decided that they wanted to cast Lauren Ambrose to play Van as an adult, or they did like the thing with the Weezer did with Africa? Like, okay, we'll do
If
it
you
if it'll get.
want,
All right, come
you asked
buy
for
our
it.
concert
This is
tickets.
for you, okay? Keep those subscriptions
I
coming.
can't be
Like,
bothered to actually learn the lyrics. I have to read them anyway. Um, yeah. So wow, what a scene, what a realization. This is definitely escalating what we think we know about other Thaisa.
yes. Yeah, the bad one, as Sammy dubbed her, which is what I've been using. Lottie says just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's evil. But look, she beheaded a dog and put like that's enough for me. I'm not saying, you know,
But what if the beheading the dog is like the train track thing? Like if she hadn't been elected, then and the other person had been elected, then many other dogs would have been decapitated. So by the act of decapitating this dog and blood magic,
wh-
she prevented the
why
decapitation.
why would many other dogs have been
I don't
decapitated?
know. I don't know anything about her opponent.
You're saying if Phil Bratwurst or whatever his name
Phil
was,
Phil Brottenheimer's
Phil
worst.
Bath Bath
Bathhouse. Phil
Bathmerston,
Bathhouse.
Phil.
He runs a chain of
It was
bathhouses.
Phil something. Phil Bathenstein. I don't know.
It doesn't
Anyway,
matter.
okay. Anyway, if he had been elected, you're saying he would have done like a mass beheading of
No,
dogs.
only he would have beheaded 5 dogs. Yeah,
Okay, look, if that's true, then I will agree that like it was the greater good or the
yeah.
lesser of two evils, if you
There we go.
prefer.
I will go on the record and say all dog heads should remain on their bodies.
I will agree with that.
And that's why I didn't vote for Bathurst.
So I, oh, was it Bathurst? Maybe that is right. I said Bathurst, but Bathurst sounds right actually. Anyway, it really doesn't matter. We're never gonna hear from that character again. Anyway, yeah, so I don't feel bad about calling her the bad one, like, because I think what she's done already is bad enough to be called that. In fact, there's implications in this episode that she also caused a car crash intentionally.
Yeah.
So anyway, I have enough to call her the bad one, so I'm just gonna do that until we get another name. Van actually asks her who she is in this episode, and she gives no answer. So, anyway, we'll see where that's going. But I'm not one to gloat, because I'm wrong all the time, literally. But literally means
Figurative,
figuratively here.
figuratively.
Um, but all is the figurative. Anyway, not the wrong. It's weird to use wrong figuratively. Anyway, okay. Um, sorry. So in my post before the season, like I pulled it up just to verify. Like I specifically was speculating about the bad one and what she did, and like the fact that her altar had the symbol on it, and I was like, could it be that the bad one was the one who was doing participating in the cannibalism, and Thaisa was refused or was horrified by it. And this episode confirmed
Yeah.
that that was correct. And I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit. First scene, like right off the bat, she's like, what? And I'm like, oh my God, they're actually doing this.
Yeah, you were right.
There was really no, I don't know, like it seemed like, based on what we saw, it seemed like a possible way they could go to reconcile. It's interesting that the others don't need the bad one to do it. Like they just do it for their own reasons out of either desperation, wanting to fit in, or in the case of Shauna, some really disturbed thing about Jackie. I mean, it like the thing with Shauna was like really weird. I feel like most of them, it was just it smells good and I'm hungry,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I kind of
and
agree
like
with
there
that
was no
too.
more to it than that.
Yeah. It's kind of psychologically not that it's psychologically convenient to have like to be occasionally possessed by some kind of force within you, but probably they'd all like to partition if they
Yeah,
could. Um, and I think it raises some questions about, how present she is really when, the bad one is
yeah,
foregrounded. I think you made the comparison to in Twin Peaks,
yeah. Bob and
Bob and
Leland.
yeah,
Yeah,
spoiler alert.
yeah. People listening to this, I mean, if you haven't seen Twin Peaks from 30
Stop
years
what
ago,
you're doing.
I
Stop
mean,
listening to this.
just no. I mean, we did a ton of Twin Peaks podcasts.
Yeah.
It's past
But
that.
anyway, it was just like the culpability question.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. They were pretty ambiguous about it. It's like sometimes they wanted to say, "Oh, he was just possessed," and sometimes they wanted to say, "No, Bob was just pushing him to do the thing that he secretly wanted to do."
yeah,
And it kind of feels to me like it's the latter they're doing with Thaisa here. That it's pushing her to do the thing that she secretly wants to do. They have this little dream sequence where Simone's like, "Is this what you wanted?" Like
mm,
it seems like they're implying like and she wanted to win the election. Like it seems like the bad one is doing stuff to further Thaisa's goals,
yeah,
you know
yeah,
and obviously Thaisa wants to survive.
yeah,
you know so it's like, I'll do the stuff that you don't have it in you to do.
yeah,
I will take the burden of,
yeah,
but like it actually cares about like I can only assume based on what we've seen that it doesn't necessarily have its own agenda. It's there to like further what Thaisa
yeah.
wants.
Except for that scene where it seems to be leading her off a cliff.
Well, we got to talk about that because
Yeah.
there's some development.
Oh,
There's some lines about not about that scene per
about the
se,
guy.
but about the eyeless guy in
Oh,
this
okay, good. Yeah,
episode, and it made me want to rethink that scene from
yeah,
the previous episode. So we'll talk about that when we get there. But one thing I did want to talk about from this scene is, Van says, "But you talk to me," and this is the first time we really see that the bad one talks. The bad one actually has its own like personality. It'll just straight up talk to you, and it sees itself as separate from Thaisa. Like it specifically refers to her in the third person.
yeah.
So like this line here is the first indication of that. Because it's interesting. She says, "I must have been sleepwalking." Van says, "But you talk to me." But this is telling us, I think, from this episode, those aren't mutually exclusive. I think she was sleepwalking, but she can talk while she's doing that. I think that's what this episode
It's like
reveals.
there's sleepwalking and then there's walking under the influence of
Well,
the bad person.
that's basically what sleepwalking means in this
But I
case.
also just want to say you can absolutely talk in your sleep while sleepwalking. I mean, that's not a,
Yeah,
but you talk, that's not a good
I
excuse.
agree, but I feel like they're setting up for what they're going to do
Do
later.
people ever sleep and eat? Like eat while they're sleepwalking?
I don't see. I mean, not that I know of specifically, but I would think it's possible given the fact that people drive cars when they're sleepwalking sometimes. You know?
Huh.
Why couldn't you?
Okay.
Right? If
Yeah.
you can go like open doors and,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a pretty simple
Fair
physical
enough.
action.
Fair enough.
I mean, hey, let us know. Have you ever been sleepwalking and then
Eating a
gone to eat
face.
something like a face, for example? Or whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be a face.
Face or otherwise. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what else about this scene?
That's it. That's it. That's all I
Then we're
have.
into the credits.
Um, yeah. So then we're into the credits. Okay, so then we go back after the credits, back to the cabin. It's the morning after eating Jackie. There is like a hangover vibe, like, oh man, whoa, we really overdid it last night,
Yeah.
they gorge themselves,
Nobody wants breakfast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the thing. Oh boy. And then Nat wants to move the body to the plane to bury later. And Ben mentions this way it'll look like she died with the others. And it's like I'm thinking like, shut up, Ben. You're already in big trouble. Don't imply that like what they did was really fucked up and you should hide it from people. Like don't say
Yeah.
that. Like
Yeah.
I
Well,
get why you're thinking it, but just
yeah.
I think that's actually his only line in the sort of waking state in this episode is like this thing that's like insinuating like,
Yeah.
oh, you should really cover up the fact that you ate one of your friends.
Also, I just want to say, not if they send somebody with half a brain. Like, oh, why is this one eaten and all the other ones are just
Yeah,
dead?
you're saying if they
Why does
actually
this one have no flesh on it anymore?
you'll see if they actually like dig them up, like they'll be able to tell the difference between a body that had all the flesh on it and just decomposed versus like one that was picked
I'm
clean and
thinking
there's
they have
just a
no
skeleton.
idea when they're gonna get
Like maybe the
rescued.
worms will eat them and they won't be able to tell which one was eaten
All
by
the bones
worms.
are just gonna be in a bag. She bundles the bones up in a bag.
Maybe the idea is they're gonna arrange
I was
them.
waiting for the scene where she unbundles it and like scatters it and like puts the skull up here, and that never happened.
Well, I think that they said they were gonna go back and bury it after the ground thaws. So I feel like the idea is that they'll
So
go
they'll
back,
arrange it into a
get out the
skeleton. Yeah,
bones, put it in skeleton
they're
form, and
gonna
then yeah, or dig the
reverse.
hole, put it, yeah,
They're
yeah.
gonna reverse archaeologist.
Reverse archaeologist. That's yeah. What's the name for that?
I don't know. I was gonna try to invert the letters, but my
That's
brain just
too
doesn't.
many too
Yeah,
many letters,
it's
I
not gonna work.
think. All right, shall we continue
Do
here?
let's.
Okay, so then we go into present day Lottie's camp. Lottie or Charlotte, if you
I
prefer,
prefer.
is doing a session, and Nat looks in, and then she goes survey the camp. She encounters Lisa, who's Fork Lady. Fork Lady gets a name in this episode, and
Mm-hmm.
it turns out to
Much
be
to your
Lisa.
delight.
Yeah, well, it just feels ridiculous to refer to a character as Fork Lady. Anyway, yeah,
Please don't.
so so
Lisa the Fork Lady.
so Lisa the Fork Lady, Nat asks about this building, which turns out to be Lottie's quarters, and apparently they are kept locked, so she can't go root around in whatever horrid secrets Lottie's got locked away in there. Definitely setting the stage potentially for something later.
We're gonna
Um,
see the inside of that
I
cabin.
think we have to. Lisa kills a chicken with an axe in front of Natalie to, I guess, be intimidating or something. And then Nat says using an axe like that is unsafe. You could, cut off your hand. And then she walks away. And in what I found to be the most confusing shot of the episode, we see a shot of a bloody tree. I don't know what to call it. It's I don't know what
Was
to
it
call it.
what? So was it blood trickling down the stump that she decapitated the chicken on?
Oh, is that what it was supposed to be? That didn't even occur to me. I guess that's a valid. I guess that's a valid. Wow, that didn't occur to me for even a second, and that's the most obvious answer. I bet that's what it was.
So I will say, when we watched the episode, I thought it looked like blood trickling down a separate tree.
Me
But
too.
now in hindsight,
It was a stump that
it
she
was a
had it
stump.
on,
Yeah.
and there's would be a lot of blood, so like it just could. That's what it was. Oh man, never mind. That's not a confusing shot at all. It's like an obvious scene closer. Okay, never mind. Shall we move on?
Sure.
Okay. Wow, mystery solved, right? If you came here for mysteries, too bad because they're all getting solved.
Solve, solve, solve.
All right,
Ticking those boxes.
so in the hospital, Ty has a dream about being in the hospital, waiting for Simone. This is where we get that. Is this what you wanted? Thing I
Yeah.
talked about. She sees Sammy. She wakes up, and a nurse says, "We're not out of the woods yet." And then
It wasn't a joke.
no, but I just feel like it's the writers doing a pun.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
like
Oh
like they can't
boy.
resist, like
Yeah.
waka waka. That's why I said
No,
it.
you're right. You're right. I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah.
Cutesy.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
And then at this point, we discover that at some point, Ty drew the symbol on Simone's hand, and she rubs it off.
Yeah. She must have drawn it on there in like charcoal or something, the way it rubs off. I'm like, eyeshadow? Like what would you just have on your person that
I'm trying to figure out when that even happened. Did she do it in the
in the
car?
hospital?
You think she did it in the
I think she did it in
hospital?
the hospital.
She was
Because
sleeping,
yeah, because when they brought her in, they would have
seeing it at
seen
that
it.
point.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So she did it in the hospital. But it feels to me like it confirms she does that look like right before the car crash, and it seemed like it was the bad one, like
Yeah.
wanting that to happen because she's like, Ty, you're sick, blah blah blah. It's that whole thing with Sammy, the
Yeah.
Sammy hallucination. I still don't fully understand. Anyway, they I feel like this confirms that because it seems like it shows that the bad one is the one who drew the symbol. I'm sure.
The same, yeah, because she doesn't seem to know about it. The
Yeah,
same
and
hallucination
she
does
already
not
drew the
make
symbol on
sense.
the altar.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just gonna say the Sammy hallucination doesn't make sense with the rest of what we're learning about here. So either they're gonna give us some more thorough explanation for her mental states that will be expansive enough for us to fit all these things in, or that just doesn't work.
Or it was just as simple
So
as like
she fell asleep and had a dream.
she was pounding
Really
coffee
vivid.
and she was like dehydrated
Yeah.
and she was lacking sleep and she just she
She
basically
fabricated.
like Coach Ben, like
Like
she
Coach
had a
Ben.
delirium dream
Yeah.
that Sammy came home. I feel like that's like the simplest,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I do feel like sometimes the shows like Lost where the simplest thing like is the thing,
Yeah, I think
you
that that
know.
makes sense to me much more than that it had anything to do with the bad person.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Which is what I thought at first, but yeah, in retrospect, I think maybe it was just her thing, and then the bad one took advantage of the situation.
yeah, so here we have the question of well, not the, okay, we've had this question in prior episodes, but this episode really brings to the foreground, is that symbol a protective symbol?
Hmm.
This is a motif throughout this episode.
Yeah,
Is the symbol protective?
yeah,
What does it mean that she drew it on Simone's hand?
right,
And
right.
then later, there's the thing about bring me her eyes, right?
Ah, we'll have to talk about that.
We
We'll
will
have to
talk about
talk
that.
about that.
But I'm gonna go on the record and say that uh holding Charlottie's intellectual humility, that just because I don't understand something doesn't mean that it's bad. Um I don't think that symbol's protective.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot in the show to really suggest that it's protective. I mean, that altar, like that wasn't protecting. That it seems to me like that altar, I mean, maybe it influenced the election, but how is that protecting anything? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that altar involved the death of an animal. Like how is that? I don't
Yeah,
know.
so I guess in the
I
sense
think I
that
think it's even implied she drew it in the dog's blood.
yeah,
Like that's what it
definitely.
looks
Definitely,
like,
I think so.
and it's like protection. I don't know, and especially given the fact that we know for a fact they're eventually going to be killing people and eating them. It's like protection. I mean, like, mm, Is it just about who wields it? You know, like it protects me, but other people it means they're gonna die. You know,
Yeah,
like
and if it's just like a power symbol and you can like use it to evoke some kind of power that you could apply in a protective way or in a some other way, you know, then okay,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, what she is about, writing it on the hand. And then there's like what she thinks the symbol is and what the symbol actually is, you know. So she
yeah.
could yeah, anyway.
Yeah, and Lottie's cult wears those symbol necklaces as well. So I mean, of course, she believes it's protective. So you know, it's fine. Like it makes sense in a way that it would be there, but you know, uh, the, a lot of questions about the symbol remain, and there's actually a
Yeah.
decent amount of symbol stuff in this episode.
There is, and we'll get to more of that.
But
So,
there's like multiple scenes that center around the symbol, which is
yes,
not necessarily routine for this show.
indeed.
Um, we'll have more coming later. So yeah, the eye thing we will talk about. I have a specific interpretation of that I want to get to when we reach that stage. So I
Great.
will hold on
Hold
to
on
it
to
for
that.
now.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. Then we go to Misty going to meet Walter on his boat. He says he admired her work on the board, and they reveal that they know each other's names, like they did their research on each other, or did they? As we discussed earlier,
Yes.
maybe Walter is not that good at research. I don't know. Anyway, you were in a plane crash. Like I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, all I
Yes.
looked up was your last name. I didn't know anything else. Anyway, um, Misty insistes on taking the lead in questioning the guy from the motel that they talked about in the
Mhm.
previous episode. But we find out that it is indeed Randy,
As
as I
predicted.
predicted. And what I didn't predict is how they would deal with the fact that he actually recognizes Misty from high school, so she can't just go in and be like, "Hey, I'm from the FBI. I'm gonna question you now." So they make an alternate plan, which is Misty will coach Walter through an earpiece, and he will, actually ask the questions. And then Randy comes in, and that's where we leave there at this point. So yeah, this is teaching me a lesson in the future. If I have a theory that feels like it must be right, but then there's a problem, think about what would be an easy solution to that.
Yeah.
Because I just gave up. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I guess it's somebody else. But it's like, no, no, no. What if it is Randy? How could Misty be involved without that being a problem? And like that is literally the first thing I would think of. It's like she
Yeah.
goes in another room and feeds the questions. Like,
Yeah, because then you also get some comedy out of it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Tons of lulls here in this story. This is definitely the comic storyline of
Yeah.
the episode. I mean, this show has like a decent strain of comedy in it. It's part of its tonal shifts that's like it makes it kind of interesting and makes it more like Twin Peaks, I think, than Lost was. Like Lost did comedy occasionally, but definitely not as consistently as this show does.
Yeah.
Like it really will lean into it, but never so much that it becomes like not a serious show. It never crosses the line into like, well, everything's just a stupid joke. Like they
Yeah.
don't push it that far. It's like they just push it right up to that line where it's like, okay, that was amusing, but like the stuff that happens in the show is serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know like they're not joking around. Like there's real death, destruction, and misery going on. Anyway, I think it's an interesting place to. There aren't that many shows that do that,
Yeah.
really. Usually a show is serious or it's funny, and it doesn't
Yeah.
meld the two in that particular way.
Yeah.
I anyway.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. So then we go to Jeff and Shauna at a restaurant. Jeff laments about not trying the strawberry lube, and
We've all been there.
it's
We're
Jeff
leaving
is
home.
so relatable. I swear, everything he says, I'm like, yeah, that's me too, Jeff. I understand. Anyway, I never said that for the record. Uh, uh, mentally, I never said that mentally. Um, I might have said that anyway. Okay.
Spiritually.
Spiritually and physically and emotionally. Anyway,
Well, you're just saying that because I know you eat strawberry lube on toast.
it's so good. I don't like jelly, but the lube, I don't
Mhm.
know, it's got an extra je ne sais quoi,
The
if we're doing
oiliness.
the
Yeah.
oh yeah, I know,
Yeah,
right?
it's the perfect
It's
aperitif.
almost like
Digestif.
it's almost like a buttery
Ugh.
olive oil
Ugh.
strawberry
Ugh.
compote. Compotes,
That's what it is if you get it at a gastropub.
Anyway, and how it led to Shauna's affair. Shauna says it wasn't about Jeff, but it was about living in uncertainty and not being boring herself. Um, and then we go to the car, and Jeff abruptly decides to be spontaneous.
Um,
Oh, I've been there too, Jeff. I was like, remember?
yeah, let's go to Colonial
That's so
Williamsburg.
me. That's so
It's
me.
so you. No, no, that's the thing. It wasn't you. It was spontaneously on you.
Oh, right. That's so me when I'm not me,
Exactly.
which is it's so me to sometimes be not me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
totally.
Anyway, what I just said makes no sense. So I'm just gonna stop
I mean,
there.
he's not like, oh, Jeff, it's not you. It's just that he was a big history buff. And so we fell into an affair over our shared passion for historical sites. Like, Jeff.
Yeah, this is weird. It's like the I feel like it's like the first thing he was like, I should do something spontaneous, and it was the first thing he thought
Yeah.
of.
And it
You
is
know,
spontaneous to go with the first thing you think of.
it is. It
So
is.
there's some A for effort, I'm guessing.
So yeah, sure, why not? So Colonial Williamsburg, they almost, or actually, I think the answer is almost, although it was played slightly ambiguously, hit someone with the car.
Oh, they did not hit him.
It was just the way it was played. It was like,
No, that was a scam.
I
Scam.
think you're right that it was a scam. It just the way they shot it was weird, but I think that was the point. Anyway,
No,
um,
in the scam, the guy jumps on the hood of your car.
yeah. We didn't do that, like it was weird. It made it seem like they stopped in time, but then they got out and it seemed like they hit him. So it was just like,
But that's how
anyway,
the scam works. Why are you arguing with me? That's the
scam.
scam.
Um, no, you're right. Don't worry,
Thank you.
don't worry. Um, okay. They almost hit someone seemingly. I mean, he jumps in front of
Oh
them.
my God,
Okay.
yes.
Who then proceeds to pull out a gun and try to carjack them. Shauna punches him and grabs the gun, but meanwhile, he drives away with the van. Shauna wants the van back for Callie's childhood toy and some other frivolous stuff. Um, and then she puts the gun in her pocket, and we will check off that later, if
She
you will.
wants, she
We'll check
wants,
it off the list, if you will.
I will. I will. Yeah, she wants the van for presumably the same reason that she had the affair with Adam.
Yes, yes,
I mean,
yes.
it's,
It's
right there.
yeah, they
This
just
is
said
how
this
writing
thing,
works. Yeah.
and yeah. I feel like what they're going for here
Although also Adam was a babe. So just saying.
is well, she didn't want to mention that. But I feel like what they're going for here is it's it's almost like what they should have gone for in Lost, but didn't, but kind of did. But what I feel like I'm trying to think of another thing where like they go for something like this. I feel like there's something like this out there, but I can't come up with it. Maybe like a war movie or something does something like this where it's like they go through this like really intense, traumatic scenario of like survival and you know um but then when they come back, like they miss it in a way, like living on the
Yeah, it's
edge.
like things are just turned down
It's like, yeah, everything
intensely.
just seems boring and crappy, and like that intensity of like living in that kind of situation like ends up having this weird appeal.
Like a form of PTSD that is like
Yeah,
craving adventure.
yeah,
Isn't there like
yeah,
I feel like that's similar to the Russian roulette thing.
yeah. Deer Hunter. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Is that whole thing? They go through that thing and it's this horrid thing, but then like Christopher Walken comes back and he actually starts doing it like all the time, you know? Like he gets addicted to doing the Russian roulette, which just seems crazy, but like it's a very similar idea, I think. Like it's like that adrenaline rush or whatever of like, you know, like, oh my God, like I could die at any moment, you know, like has some kind of psychological appeal that like just normal, boring, risk-free life doesn't really have, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think they're definitely like hitting that theme
Yeah.
pretty hard in this episode.
Yeah.
And there's more about that I want to say when we get to the later scene. Um, but yeah, anything else you want to say about this carjacking business?
Like everyone else watching, I wanted Shauna to shoot.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
well,
how
Jeff
TV
Jeff
works.
like grabbed her gun hand, and she didn't want to shoot Jeff. So I
Right.
feel like that's really. I almost feel like if she was there alone, she could have shot the guy, or at the very least, wouldn't have let him take the van.
Yeah. But it also calls back to the scene where Nat takes the gun and shoots at the car, the van in the first season,
Oh, right. She
where there's
takes
like an
Kevin's gun.
escalation,
Yeah.
like Shauna's behavior has escalated, presumably because of what has transpired with Adam by that point.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of like revived that thing. Because, yeah, it seems like it had been relatively dormant, you know, for how, you know,
Yeah.
20 years,
And then there's like,
25 years, if you believe Jeff.
yeah, like the killing the rabbits,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
The rabbit,
the
definitely.
affair, and now
Yeah,
this.
the whole skinning thing has a different connotation now that we know, like, that's her thing
Yeah.
specifically. Yeah, like they've made that really clear, like at this point, like that was her job
Ugh.
specifically. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, it's horrifying. All right, are you shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. So then we go back to Lottie's camp. She's looking at the registration board. I'm sorry, Natalie is looking at the registration board, and Lottie says she should sign up for something, but she refuses. And Lottie leads her to the B. What do you call those? The
Box?
B box,
I don't know.
the B box. I don't know. I feel like there's a name for those
I'm
things.
sure that there is.
Like caboodle, you know, it's like I learned vocabulary from this. Every other podcast I heard just called it a caboodle casually, like everyone knows
Really?
what that word is. Yeah.
Oh,
I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just the chosen few who don't weren't familiar with that term. Anyway, um,
frame? A beef frame?
yeah, maybe, yeah, that's what it was. It was like a frame shape,
I think they're called box. A brooding box?
brooding box.
With and the things
Ooh,
inside are frames.
ooh, okay.
So for instance, you could purchase a 20 frame bee box
Hmm.
for only $125.99 American. Wow, should we start
You gonna
keeping
buy it now?
bees? I've heard that they thrive if you dump blood on them.
Yeah. That's yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, we didn't finish the scene.
No, we barely
So
started.
she leads her to
Takes her to the bee
the bee
hives,
boxes, bee hive
which are, by the
boxes.
way, not a metaphor.
So not a
Not a
metaphor.
metaphor.
No
Get going on the
connection.
non-metaphorical dialogue that ensues.
Yeah, then she talks about queen bees killing the other queens so that they don't starve. And you know, it's just natural. I mean, it's just what they have to do, you know. That's just how nature is. I mean, it's kind of beautiful, don't you think? I mean, yeah, I she's clearly like defending herself in the past in this scene.
Defending herself in the past, perhaps also setting us up for she sent the postcards
Ah,
because she wants to kill the rest of the queens.
ah, yeah. I mean, there is an implication there, definitely. It's like, who are the other queens? Like the ones you ate, or like, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah,
I
or
think that part is
are
ambiguous
you still doing
because I feel like
this?
the drones would be the people at the camp.
Yeah,
You know, like that's the most obvious interpretation of that. You know, so then it's like, yeah, who are the other queens? Yeah, we'll
but
see, we'll
it's
see.
Nat. But it's like Nat is not a threat to
But
her.
she saved Natalie's life. They keep saying that, you know? I just want you to be alive, and that's a win for me. Whatever you do, like she's all I want to do is help you. All I've ever wanted to do is help you. I
Yeah.
don't know. She's taking that line. Well, we'll see how far it goes. This episode definitely calls into question Lottie's state of mind more so than any of the previous episodes this season. So we'll get to that at the very end of the episode. But I think since the beehive is actually where we end things, it does seem significant that we get this scene here about it where she's like comparing herself seemingly to um oh, and she also had the antlers on her cabin, they had a shot of that.
She had antlers on her cabin.
Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty common though.
it is, and yet,
Yeah, it's
specifically,
clearly
she's the one who was wearing the antlers. I mean, we all think that.
we all think that.
We don't know that for sure, but we know it about as for sure as Lord Ambrose playing Van.
Yeah.
It's like it seems they already did a shot in season one where they showed antlers in the cabin, which, like you said, it's a standard thing over her head specifically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just feel like it's more of a wink at the audience than anything, but it still seems like it
I
was
mean,
like
now it certainly notices them.
if there weren't antlers there already, I feel like she'd be like, we
Yeah,
gotta
because
get
it
some
does
antlers up there."
seem a little bit incongruous with the rest of her hippie
Mm-hmm.
uh commune vibe.
Yeah, well,
So that
there's
is
some other stuff that feels that way too that we'll
yeah.
get to a little later.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we okay. So we're going back to the cabin in the past. And I say cabin, we're actually at the plane at this point with Natalie. Sorry, we're not at the plane. She's packing up Jackie's bones. We didn't get to the plane yet. She's still at the cabin. We are at the cabin. Anyway, Lottie says, "You're doing the right thing," and offers some warm liquid. I don't know what it was actually.
Well, it's probably the tea with her blood in it that she gave her that one time.
Oh, that was blood tea. Okay, interesting. You're right. You're right. Because that was the thing before they went out. Yeah, that's what it was. You're right. And she's like, she doesn't want that because she doesn't believe in that stuff. Um,
It actually it serves to protect you from albino mooses
that
specifically.
never would have happened if you just had my blood tea. Just saying. Okay. Then Travis offers to come along. Nat refuses that as well. And then she leaves. In the cabin, Lottie tells Shauna it's what she would have wanted, meaning Jackie, for the baby.
I hate
Shauna,
this.
I think you should eat me to save the life of the baby that you had with my boyfriend.
Yeah. She, you know,
Are
she
you sure Jackie would have wanted that? I'm
Jackie
not
was just so
convinced.
selfless, you know. She was just all about sacrifice for others. She's a very nurturing
That's a lot
person.
to expect. Like, did you meet Jackie? Like, I
But I
don't
love it, like
understand.
I
You were
love
on
it,
the team, right?
but I do like the follow-up line of like, well, maybe she wouldn't have wanted us to eat her, but she would have wanted you to eat her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah. She does say
finally
that.
someone sort of acknowledges that like Jackie was not Jackie didn't really like you guys.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But
I'm not
we
convinced she would have wanted Shauna to eat her, but
yeah. Well, no.
in that context,
Did
but
anybody want to be eaten? I mean, I don't know.
yeah,
Well, we'll come back to them.
I doubt it. Shauna admits that she wanted it too. Lottie tells her not to blame herself and assures her the baby will be a beautiful thing and says we should do something for him.
Um,
Shauna questions this and Lottie corrects, is it for you? For you, for you. And her big idea that we will come to later is to have a baby shower. So we're gonna get a doom shower here.
yeah, I hate it. I hate it, but we'll talk about it later when it happens.
The actual shower.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So that there's this implication here, and
Also, this is like, let's have a baby shower like 10 hours after we finish eating Jackie. I don't know. Gross.
so there's this implication here that you know that Lottie believes the baby's gonna be a boy, which first of all, probably means that those deleted lines from the pilot of Callie's older sister are no longer canon. Like, it's unlikely that they're gonna say that, that, oh yeah, she had an older sister this whole time and that was the baby from the woods. So it either means they're gonna say she has a son out there, which I'm finding hard to believe, or like the baby's not gonna make it, which seems much more likely to me. But they really are
Mhm.
committing to it. But on the other hand, like you said, it's gonna have to be a thing. That however the baby doesn't make it is gonna have to be a big thing. And the more they get us to care and invest and get the characters in the world also, like they're doing this thing just for this baby, like it will add weight to whatever happens. So that's my guess right now for where this is going. But
Yeah,
you know we'll see.
we will.
All right, so you ready to jump forward? Okay, so we're going to Walter's boat. Walter questions Randy while Misty coaches him through the earpiece. Misty has Walter ask about Natalie at the motel. He denies it. He denies that he saw her, is what I mean. Misty says to hit him, and Walter leaves the room to talk to Misty. Misty insists that he's hiding something and that bad cop is the only way to break him. So Walter goes out and slaps Randy, and that's where we leave things for now.
Did we already have the Jeff line?
Yeah, this is the I didn't actually mention it, but yeah, he when Walter's questioning him about hiding something, he thinks that he's talking about Jeff
Yeah,
and like the whole blackmail scheme
yeah.
and that they did, because he doesn't know he doesn't know anything about what's going on here.
Hmm.
And so yeah, he almost admits that. And yeah, you brought up that like Misty, he doesn't actually know about Jeff's involvement with that or Randy's involvement with that, and thinks that it was Adam who did all that. And she's lying to Walter about his Adam Martin theories while she doesn't know this other thing about Adam Martin. There's like several levels of deception in that plot line. It's weird. But she definitely could have caught it. They didn't really make a thing of it in this scene, so they're gonna have to like bring it up later. Like they didn't really cut to Misty and have her like what
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
there wasn't a tell that like it was significant to her that he said Jeff.
yeah.
She knows that he knew Jeff. He was friends with Jeff in the old
Yeah,
days.
yeah. They're still best friends.
So, and they still are. So, and they were at the reunion. They had a scene together at the reunion. you know so anyway, I'm not clear if she really was suspicious about that or not, but it
Yeah.
definitely sets a
No,
stage
I mean it
for.
blows right past. She doesn't, as you say, like she's unmonitored and she doesn't even wince.
Yeah, and she's just focused on like what happened to Natalie,
Yeah.
so they just kind of move straight into that. But it is interesting that there's this other thing that she could uncover there that she doesn't know about,
Hmm.
and that would basically reveal Shauna's lie.
Yeah.
That like they covered up a murder for something that was just because Shauna murdered him for a false interpretation, and that actually Jeff was the one doing the blackmail the whole time. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. All right. So shall we page 2. All right, back to the cabin. Ty makes a crib with Akila's help, who mentions missing a nephew back home. Mari made an abstract mobile with a stabby thing hanging from it. And then says she hears dripping, but no one
Mm.
else seems to hear it. All right, so now that the bloody tree is like obvious, I'm gonna call this the weirdest moment of the episode because I don't understand this. Does anybody hear that dripping? No one responds, and then they move on. I'm like, what the fuck? What? You know, I always ask myself the question, why did they write a line, right? Why would they write that line? I don't understand. I don't understand. It doesn't
Yeah.
contribute. The mobile thing is fine. That's part of the scene, right?
Yeah.
It's a shower, she's making a thing, blah blah blah. But like, anyway.
Yeah.
Weird moment.
It's a
Okay.
weird line. I mean, you think dripping, you think blood. but why?
Yeah, and why is only Mari here? You know, like
Yeah, why is only Mari hearing it? Is a great question. And what could it what could it signify?
there is the prevailing theory. I don't think they're even close to this yet, so it doesn't really add up at all. But it does still seem to be a prevailing theory that Mari's going to be Pit Girl, and if they're gonna do some weird, almost like the thing they did with Maddie in Twin Peaks, where like there's this like vague sense of like foreboding or doom that
Yeah,
leads up to her death, that like she starts seeing things that no one else is seeing, or hearing things that,
yeah.
like, I mean, I don't know for a fact, but that's my best guess. It's a stab in the dark, as if you will, but
Yeah.
we'll see. Okay, I'm not actually done with the scene. Uh, okay.
It's
Misty,
that sense of foreboding.
yeah, clearly,
Does
Misty's.
anybody hear that? No.
Yeah, you didn't hear that, did you?
Hear what?
That's what I thought. I didn't hear anything. All right, Misty sits with Crystal, and doesn't know what to do for the shower. They eventually have a little chat about the cannibalism. Like Misty wanted to make bone broth with Jackie's bones, apparently. Oh, which is a lot.
You know,
Um,
I do just want to say though, in the 90s, did anybody know, but other than our grandmothers, know about bone broth?
yeah, I
You
agree. I
know,
think
it's
it's an
like,
anachronism.
no. I mean, I grew up in a household where we definitely made broth out of bones, not human bones. But also, we all remember,
Yeah.
bitch, we all remember the last time you were involved in broth making, albeit accidentally.
Right. Yeah, good point. I forgot about that. The
So did the writers.
mushroom doom broth.
Yeah, doom broth.
Yeah, Travis doesn't give a shit about that either. He's all about Lottie, and he was even calling Lottie in his time of need in the future. And
Yeah.
it's like, motherfucker, she was like, yeah, go ahead, slit his throat. Like, why did you just let that go?
She
I don't know.
put
That's
all
still
that into
bothering
motion.
me.
She put all that into motion.
I can't, I don't know. That's still bothering me. I want more about that. Anyway, we'll see. Um, Not in this episode. Okay, sorry. So they talk about the cannibalism not being that bad. And Crystal says, actually, it's not the first time I ate a person. I actually absorbed my twin in the womb. And this leads to Crystal having an idea for Misty's gift to Shauna.
Yeah, this is another source of comedy in the episode.
It
Misty's
is, you're
Misty's
right.
often good for comedy.
It is definitely
Um,
that. It is definitely that.
yeah, this isn't the first time I've eaten somebody. Like, what a line.
It's such a, yeah. It's interesting in the sense that it's actually the only time in the episode where like they really have a frank discussion about it. Like, I mean, there is the Thaisa thing, but that's in the context of like she didn't know. But like this is like the knowing characters like actually discussing like how they felt about the fact that they did it.
Yeah,
It's really the only time in the episode that it happens,
yeah,
so it seemed notable for that reason. But yeah, they're like the two weirdest characters. Strangely, they're the two weirdest
yeah.
characters, and so like their reactions to it are strange. Anyway, um, at this point, Coach Ben comes in, and Jen with a G, or Gen if you prefer. Had to look it up. Apparently, she did appear in the first season and was credited as Yellowjacket #1, and now she's been promoted to Gen, or Jen with a G, as you prefer. And anyway, she asks if he's hungry, and then he has this scary vision of her like crawling on her knees, foaming at the mouth, and saying, "I'm still hungry," or something like that. And then he snaps out of it. And at this point, we go back to the VHS delirium dream. Okay, before I do that, do you want to say something else about this scene?
Yeah, I didn't recognize having ever seen that girl before. So when she shows up and she's foaming at the mouth, I'm like, what the fuck is this? I thought like she's not even there. this is somebody that he has conjured entirely out of thin air. Okay, so that was not the case. This is
No.
Yellow Jacket number one,
Yeah.
the well known.
If we watch season one again, we can look. She will be there
Yeah.
in the background for some of those like red shirt, yellow jackets, basically.
Yeah, so wow. So when you think of foaming at the mouth, I think of rabid animals.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely
Um,
what it looks like. Yeah.
Things have really accelerated with Coach Ben. You know, he was already not in a good state, but a few episodes ago, he seemed sort of fine,
Yeah.
right?
The map stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but things have definitely taken a nosedive for him.
Very much so. It all started when he didn't participate in the cannibalism. Like that last shot of the previous episode. Like I feel like that was the beginning of his spiral that he's in this episode, and this makes it
But it was
clear.
like a
Like
plummet because that was
it was a
like
plummet.
there was a
Yeah.
really short span of time on the show and a really short span
This is
of time in
the
their lives.
morning
This is the
after.
next morning,
Yeah.
right? So yeah,
But I feel like the idea is like they were already very hungry and he didn't eat anything. So I feel like he's feeling it
yeah,
more than they are. So now it seems like he's really, like they're like it feels like he should be more on the level with them, but I feel like there's at least some, logic to the idea that, he's like losing it, whereas like everything else seems more or less status quo, despite the fact they
yeah,
can eat
yeah.
Jackie,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I mean, he should need more food than them. He's bigger
Yeah.
and his body is still dealing with the healing of the leg.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um Realistically, could anyone have survived this?
yeah.
No, I doubt it.
Well, Van's injuries, look better and better. I could barely tell that her face was
Yeah.
eaten off by a wolf.
Both of them absolutely would have died without proper surgery and antibiotics, but I'll just set that aside. I'm not a medical doctor, but I have
You're not?
seen many medical doctor TV shows. But anyway, yeah, I'll just go with it. I'll go with it because that's clearly where they're going. But I wonder how long they can reasonably wait before killing him to
Yeah,
eat him,
yeah.
because presumably that is what's going to happen. They're going to kill him.
I feel like there's a possibility that he just wastes away, or he just like has an injury and they have to put him out of his misery. I could see some scenarios where like they do some middle ground between like straight up murder and he just dies of his own accord, like Jackie, like because I feel like they want to progress it.
Yeah, or the bad one could just kill him in his sleep.
Or yeah, well, that would be sort
The
of an in
middle
between
ground.
for me since it's not the group. It would just be Thais is the bad one. But yeah, that's a valid. I didn't even think of that, but that could totally happen. Yeah, yeah. She wakes up and snaps his neck or something, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Or
Totally
he's
see
like sneaking out to take a shit in the bucket, in the pee bucket, and
it.
somebody like maybe Crystal,
Crystal.
who, she's already done it twice. She just sticks her foot out, trips him. That's it.
Wait, Crystal didn't trip him. That was
No,
Misty.
no, Crystal did. Oh, I meant because she's already old hat with cannibalism, having absorbed her.
Oh, she's all down with cannibal. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay, okay.
yeah.
Got it.
No, I don't think that Crystal would do it. I don't think Crystal would do that. I think Crystal is a lovely person. Um,
I'm not so sure about that, but yeah, I agree that she's not evil.
I think she's kind of desperate for friendship.
Yes. Yeah, she's like Misty in that way,
Yeah,
which is why they put them together, I
yeah.
think. But
Um,
she's clearly not going to make it, so
yeah,
Misty's not hang. You'd think she would still be hanging out with Crystal if she made it. Like that seems,
yeah,
you know, because like she seems like the best suited to be hanging out with Misty of the whole crew that we've met. So
yeah,
it feels like at some point, oh
yeah.
no,
She's not gonna make it.
she's not gonna make it. It seems clear. Okay, so at this point we go back into the VHS delirium dream, and Paul wants Ben to move in. Paul wants Ben to move in, or Paul wants Ben to move in,
Oh
or Paul wants
God,
Ben to move
stop,
in.
stop.
I'm sorry, it's too much. Okay, anyway, Ben wants to see the team through to nationals, and it's mentioned here, by the way, that it's May. This is something I took note of since, like, it was a little ambiguous when the finals actually happened, and he actually says that it's May in this scene. So, which means that the crash happened no
In
earlier than May,
yeah,
and presumably in May because, like,
yeah,
they're on the verge of leaving at this point. And he says it's a big commitment, and Paul basically says, okay, well, if you're not, willing to, you know, make a commitment to me, then you should leave, and that's where we leave things for now. And actually, that's probably where things were actually left in real life. I think this is probably the final scene that happened in some sense,
yeah,
because it seems believable to me up to this point.
yeah,
The last scene, there's no way to take it literally, but
yeah.
um, I can only assume that it's it's really rubbing salt in the wound that he's in this state now and miserable. He would have been miserable if it was like, oh, it was whatever. It was after 2015 and they just got married,
Yeah,
and as soon as he got back, they were gonna go on their honeymoon or something.
yeah.
Like, it's making it worse that, like, his going on the trip actually, like, spoiled the whole relationship, and so it's like, oh man, it's even worse that I went on this trip. Not just the fact that I'm now probably going to be eaten by by he calls them vicious little monsters. Which again is, it's such a classic, like, flashback thing. Like, that's something they would do on Lost if they had cannibalism.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's like foreshadowing this thing where, like, he meant it innocuously at the time.
Yeah, he meant like they gossip about each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Like one of them tries, slide tackles another one to be eliminated from the game.
Which, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that level of vicious,
yeah,
but, like, nothing near, like, what clearly actually happened
yeah.
and
That's
what he's clearly, like, thinking about, by
right.
this vision. Like,
Yeah.
that vision showed that he really is thinking, like, they're gonna eat me. He's aware that, like, this really could happen. I How am I gonna survive if I'm not gonna eat people? They're gonna eat me.
I'm gonna be the cumin in the chowder.
I'm gonna be the cumin in the chowder. Ugh. Yeah, that's gross.
Cumin really shouldn't be the chowder. I can agree on that.
I agree completely. I mean, I'm not a chowder fan, but if you must make chowder, make it not with cumin. That is something I would say.
Yeah, so it's a time capsule and kind of a tragic culmination of his little mini backstory, and it's definitely the kind of scene that you start getting when someone's going to die.
Yeah, so very much. I mean, I already thought it. I literally said that in the little season one, like, review slash speculation.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was gonna die pretty soon this season. So anyway, I don't know. It's possible they'll put it off for a little while, but yeah, it's clearly coming. I
Yeah.
mean, if it doesn't happen, it'll be a miracle. And they're like, no, actually, Coach Ben is just living he's in Lottie's camp, or I don't know, some weird shit like that. There's no way
I
they're gonna do
don't
that.
see him in Lottie's camp.
I don't either. It's there. I feel
Yeah.
like there's a 0% chance that'll happen. I'm just saying, like, how would we not have seen him already? Like, that was my only, you know.
He's a problem. I mean, having an adult around is a problem. There wasn't like
Yeah.
one adult on the Lord of the Flies island.
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Um,
Definitely. And I feel like that's part of why he lost his leg. It was like the first stage of,
yeah.
like, there is no adult supervision here. He's powerless to really do anything to control them, and
Yeah.
ultimately, yeah, I think he'll just be out of the picture completely, and chaos will reign. All right, so you ready for the next scene here?
Let's do it.
Okay, so Nat treks to the plane with Jackie's bones. Okay, yeah, that's right. And she goes into the plane and says that Jackie was lucky to go so early before things got worse. And she apologizes for eating her and thanks her and says RAP. And then we hear a rustling outside, and it's a moose, a white moose. Um, Natalie gets her gun and shoots at the moose, and the moose charges but can't get in the plane. Natalie tries to shoot again, but seemingly the moose is gone.
It does seem like there are tracks in the snow.
Were there? I thought the same thing, but I wasn't sure if that's what we were supposed to think or not.
So it's, maybe those are her tracks, not the moose's tracks.
But you're pretty sure there are
Um,
tracks in the snow. I didn't really look
yeah,
at it carefully.
I thought it looked like there were because I was looking for clues about. I mean, it seems like it's a vision. We know other people are having visions.
Yeah.
Um, we haven't seen any animals. This has been a whole point. There
Yeah.
hasn't been any game, and now here's this all white moose.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which is fantastical, rare,
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah.
Mooses, I don't know anything about mooses.
I know fairly little about mooses, except that they like cranberries.
It, okay. Um, uh, yeah, yeah. So it's
Am I right about that? Or did I make that? Is that like my head canon
well, no,
about
I mean,
mooses?
laughing to myself because I don't think that you actually know that. I think that what you know is that you associate both of them with the same habitat. Um,
Oh.
but they might eat cranberries. I don't know. But anyway, this is not a cranberry ecosystem that we're set in right now. So we can't ask this moose,
You're right.
which is a shame. Um,
If it really was
if it is
there.
indeed a real moose. Yeah. So
Yeah, it was played pretty ambiguously, I think. But if the tracks are there, then I'd believe it. I just when I looked, I couldn't tell if they were supposed to be the moose tracks or if it was just like you said, Natalie's tracks or something else. Like it wasn't obvious to me, I guess, but I didn't really like zoom in and enhance and all that, so I'm not really sure. Maybe we are just supposed to take it at face value, but it is weird, right? They were talking about they didn't find any animals.
yeah,
They were out hunting for a long time, seemingly. I mean, that's what led to the desperation.
yeah, I'm
And
gonna say it wasn't really there.
okay, okay,
Um, it, it's weird. I don't know what it does mean, but I don't think it's really there.
okay, okay. Putting it on the line. I like it.
And the timing just seems suspicious, for her to.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, it's like Jackie's moose ghost. Like I don't forgive you, and I didn't want you to eat me. Don't listen to what Lottie
Yeah, don't
says.
let anyone tell you otherwise.
Lottie's a liar. All right. You ready for the next
I'm
bit
ready.
here? All right,
I'm
so we
ready.
go back to Walter's boat. Randy is desperate. Walter gets a table saw out. Is that what it is? A table
He says a
saw?
Dremel.
Dremel, that's what you call it. Table saw was the first word that came to mind. I don't know what things are called. I think if you listen to this podcast long enough, you'll learn that like I don't actually know what the words for things are.
Yeah, I think a table saw is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's a saw that is mounted to a table.
Oh, I thought it was just like a saw that you could put on a table.
Wow. This is a. We passed me my table mug of coffee.
I,
Do you know why I call it that?
why?
Because you can put it on tables. Yeah, I think Dremel is a brand name. There's probably a
Yeah.
generic term for that,
Table saw.
but a spinning. It's yeah.
Table saw.
Table saw. We'll just call it a table saw.
Okay, fine, a Dremel. Walter gets a Dremel out and asks again about Natalie. Finally, we learn that Randy saw a group dressed in purple
Heliotrope.
with a van hanging around.
Van.
A van hanging
Oh
around.
boy.
I'm just saying. Um, there was a van there. I don't know. Anyway, okay. Apparently, they drank all the Fanta out of the soda machine. This is the weirdest detail to me.
Please tell me.
After Mari hearing dripping, is like, Holly, Holly? Why do I want to call her Holly? Lottie's cult likes Fanta.
I
Like,
hope that it was only purple Fanta.
why did they just drink Fanta? There's a whole soda machine there. Drink something else. Was Lottie like Fanta is the holy soda? You must only drink Fanta. Like what? I don't
Yeah.
understand why they. You would think she would be like, "Don't drink that stuff. Is bad. You know, it's refined sugar and it's like I would expect her to like take that line, not like, or is it like, oh, Lottie's not around, we could have some Fanta, you know?
Yeah,
But
Fanta.
then like, why not have the other sodas? I don't know. To me, it's just weird. Why Fanta?
Because Fanta's funny.
Because fans is funny. You know what? I don't need a better answer than that. All right. Uh, let's see. At this point, Misty calls it off. Because that's all he knows, and at this point, they don't think that that's useful, though it turns out to be. Um, Spoiler alert. Walter lets him go. Misty comes out. That's where we end things for the moment. Um, any comments about this bit here?
Nope.
Good to go? Okay. So we go back to the cabin. Crystal is coaching Misty on acting. Ty is sleeping with Van watching. And then Van falls asleep. Ty sits up. It's the bad one. Oh, yeah. Get ready. Van wakes up and asks to come with her. She agrees. First time we hear TBO talk right here, at least knowingly. Apparently, she also talked in the previous episode. Anyway, she agrees. They leave the cabin. Van, here we get question and answer time with the bad one, right? It's like that
TBOT.
it's like that scene in Lost when Locke is like gets goes puts Ben against a tree and it's like, what's the smoke monster? It's like, are you sure? Are you sure the answers are even here? Anyway, so she asks the bad one how she knows where to go, and she says that the eyeless guy shows her. But the bad one only follows when she lets her, meaning Thaisa. So then Van says, "Who are you?" and gets no answer. Van follows her to a tree that has a symbol carved into it and then wakes up Ty, who has no idea what's going on. She points out the symbol and tells her what she just heard from the bad one about the one with no eyes. And Ty says she doesn't know who that is, which is definitely a lie. She 100% knows who it is. She just doesn't want to admit it. I can only assume because they actually cut to the childhood flashback where she saw the eyeless guy in the mirror right at that moment.
But can it also be true that she doesn't actually know who it is?
Well, maybe she doesn't know who it is, but she knows what she's talking. Like she's acting like she doesn't know what she's talking about. But like
Yeah.
my grandmother talked about this guy.
Yeah.
Like, she can say more than like, I don't know who that is. I don't know what you're talking about. Like
Yeah, that's
that's
like a classic TV move.
yeah.
Like to say you don't know when what you mean is you don't really understand it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, where I just feel like she could have been more forthcoming here.
For sure. Yeah,
It seems to
certainly.
me like she's kind of concealing and also like partially in denial like about what's happening and what it means, you know.
Yeah.
Um so okay, so there's a couple things I want to address here. Um so she says the way she knows where to go is the eyeless guy shows her and she follows when Thaisa lets her. Okay. So that made me rethink
When
the
Thaisa lets her.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's actually a separate thing from what I wanted to talk about. We can address that. Yeah. But what I wanted to say is it kind of made me rethink the previous episode where it seemed like the eyeless guy was leading her off a cliff, and it made me think that there was something else going on there, and it just didn't come to fruition because Van jumped in. Um, because like all the other stuff the bad one does, like there's no indication that she's being led to her death any other time.
Yeah.
So, and because she's saying this is what always happens, the eyeless guy shows me where to go,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw the symbol, in that scene where she gets let off the cliff.
Yeah.
It makes me think that it was just that they made it look like that, but that's not really what was
The
happening.
cliff was there for drama, but he
Yeah.
wasn't really gonna. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Van jumped in because that's what she thought was going to happen, but if
Yeah.
if she hadn't jumped in, like something else would have happened. That's what I'm
Yeah.
assuming
They
based
should
on
go back to that
this.
spot and look around. Have a look around.
I agree. I mean, they got that mossy tree. They really should investigate more. There's a lot of stuff to uncover, I think, and I'm getting lost vibes here of like most of them don't really care about the mysteries of
Yeah.
what's going on around them. They're worried about practical things like surviving or getting off the islands.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I always end up in shows like this where it's like the thing I want to know, like none of the characters really care about,
Yeah.
or they're like Lottie and they just have an ad hoc interpretation and therefore don't actually investigate.
Yeah.
Like it's like I don't know. Anyway, um, but yeah, this scene was interesting because it's a progression in terms of the bad one, like actually having a full conversation on screen and talking about and saying like this is how I'm led. Like it's very strange. Like it's like the bad one's already
Yeah.
already this level of strangeness, and then the bad one sees the eyeless guy,
Yeah.
and that's how she knows. It's like because she could have just said like I just know or whatever. It could have been simpler, but it's like now there's this extra layer of like the eyeless guy, and it's like is that tied in with the thing from Thais' childhood, the flashback from season 1? Is there some kind of like family demon? I don't know what to think of that, or is it just that that's how she sees it because of that experience?
Right.
Like she's manifested it in that way, but like it's not really there. It's actually just like the bad one hallucinates,
Right.
basically, is
Right.
what I'm
Right.
saying, which is which is another level of like strangeness. Like I have an alternate personality who also imagines things who are
Yeah, it's that's a weird one.
and is drawn to the symbol. I think that's also the notable thing. Like she draws the symbol on Simone in the hospital. She's being led to the symbol. She puts the symbol on the altar. What does the bad one think about the symbol? Because the symbol's not connected to her childhood, right? Her grandmother wasn't like, and there's this symbol, like that was just from the woods,
It appears to just be from the woods.
why? Why?
Yeah, why?
This is my question.
It's a good question.
How does that, does she just incorporate it ad hoc, like Lottie style? Like, oh, well, I guess the symbol's this weird thing, so I'll just kind of interpret it as channeling whatever whatever the bad one thinks is doing and why. It's like, you know, a source of power or protection or magic, or I don't know what it really thinks. It's like I wanted Van to, this is just like Lost. Like I wanted Van to ask more questions.
Yeah.
Like, don't wake her up. Thais is not gonna know shit. Leave her like that and say more. Why? Why are you going here? What are you doing? What is your intention? Like what oh, you just go out and look at a symbol on a tree? Why would you break your ropes to do that? That makes no sense. Like what
Yeah, then what?
why like why are you eating dirt? Like why did you take my bone talisman? Like what there's like so many questions like that I want her to ask, and it's like like we barely get to level 1, and I'm like, I got 5 levels after that I want you to get to. Of course they're holding back on us, but it's just it always frustrates me when we get to a scene that's like wish fulfillment, but then like it's so much less than I really
Yeah.
want,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, wake up. No, don't do that. I want more time. Let the bad one speak.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want that though if you
I
real,
know. I
know.
know. It's just like it makes me think about I remember in season 3 when they find the flame station, and the flame station has like this basement where there's all these like folders and schematics of Dharma crap. And I remember thinking like, oh man, I really want to know what's in all that stuff, you know? But then later when I thought about it, I was like, no, I don't. There's nothing there. They're
Yeah.
empty binders. What exists is what they want to tell us. Like
Yeah.
there is no, whatever the bad one says is what they want us to know, and
Yeah.
there is no more to say right now, like,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, because that mystery is a big one for me on the
Yeah.
show, it was so exciting to actually get a chance to get like some concrete information from the source itself,
Yeah.
not just aftermath, not just here's an altar it made, not just, you know, here's a thing that it did, like, no, here's what it's saying, it's doing and why. Like, that's, I don't know, to me that was a milestone, even if we don't learn a ton. And I do think the implications of the connection to the Eye of the Sky and the symbol are going to be some things to watch going forward, I
Yeah.
have to say.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready for the next thing here?
Yes.
All right. So we're at the gym with Jeff pumping that iron. He sees Kevin with a Y there as well, and goes to confront him about questioning Shauna like any good citizen would do. Kevin tells Jeff about the affair with Adam, and Jeff says, "You have bad intel," and leaves.
Yeah. Oh, Jeff.
This scene is so ridiculous.
Oh, Jeff.
This is like so ill advised. Can I finish? All right. So it just makes me think that, like,
She's not done.
I know. I'll cut around it. It makes me think that Jeff had if Jeff had actually followed through on the thing that he said he was going to do at the end of season 1, which was like take the fall for the murder of Adam, that he would have blown it
He would have blown it.
completely.
Yeah.
He would have been like, yeah, that's right. I don't know.
It was me and only me. Shauna never even met Adam.
Yeah, exactly. Something like,
Yeah, he's a terrible liar.
we have 500,000 texts between them. It's like, okay. It's like, it is funny in the sense that there's also like layers of deception in this, because, like, first of all, like, uh, uh, Jeff knows Jeff knows that Shauna murdered Adam. Jeff knows about the affair already. He has to act like he didn't know, or I guess he has to act like he doesn't believe it. I guess that's what he goes with. Also, on the other side of things, Kevin doesn't tell him that the intel is his daughter, Kelly, literally told him that,
Yeah.
and and so like it's like they're both it's like they're both talking past each other, because both of them don't know that the other one's like hiding this thing. And it's just a weird scene. Like, I don't know what they're doing with this. It seems to me like the only purpose this can serve is to make Kevin more suspicious of Shauna and escalate that to wherever it's going to go. The only thing I can think of, the only way out that I can think of is, and Jay, or whatever his real name, I forgot his real name. That was his fake name. Anyway, the other cop who actually talked to Callie, like, he needs to be dealt with because he's a problem. But I feel like the easiest way to deal with Kevin is to reveal that Natalie was involved in disposing the body. I feel like that's the only way he could potentially like let it go, if he actually finds out, without just being killed himself. I mean, it's like, how else can that end? Because I agree. Like
Yeah.
Shauna's not going away to prison for murder.
Yeah.
There's no way that's gonna happen on this show.
Right.
I don't believe it for a second. If they do that, like I would be shocked if they actually did that. So I just feel like there's two ways. Either he finds out and lets it go, or they kill him. And I just feel like, yeah, that I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts about how that could end? Like I just that's all I got right now.
I mean, it doesn't look good. I agree that Natalie is probably the only way that this could be dismissed.
Yeah, and then he would have to make up a story to the other cop
Right.
potentially to explain like, oh no, no, it wasn't her. I know it because whatever bullshit he has to make up. You
It's
know,
pretty, yeah, it's pretty deep.
fabricate evidence. I don't know how deep he's gonna get involved. It's just, it just seems to me like there's no other way out.
Yeah.
Now maybe next week I'll be like, why didn't I think of this obvious thing? But that's all I got right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing another. If there's something else, I'm not seeing it. I think it looks really suspicious. I think that Walter is not going to let it go. I think Kevin and his partner are not going to let it go. So,
Yep.
and Natalie is off at this retreat or cult or whatever, intentional community.
Right. Right.
So I'm not really sure how that's going to intervene. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. She's like
stories
totally removed from this whole
the
thing.
stories are all dispersed right now, and it feels like they need to get woven back
Yeah. Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Definitely.
And um yeah, we'll find
But
out.
I think that's a common thing in shows like this. Like characters are spread out and then they gradually are brought together. I have a specific theory about that later in the episode.
Okay.
So, we'll see if that turns out to be true. But
Yeah.
I just,
Are you
I
what
just think it's worth considering. Oh, so I just have to look up this thing because of the next scene that we're going to talk about. I just need to pull this up.
okay. Well, I'll just vamp for a
No, no,
while.
I got it. I got
Okay.
it. All right, you ready for the next scene?
Yeah.
Here we go. Shauna gets dropped off at the place where the van is, some kind of garage, I guess. She walks in with the gun. She finds a guy on the phone and points the gun at him and asks about her minivan. The guy is skeptical. Shauna will use the gun because her hand is shaking, and then she gives this speech about how she's peeled the skin off a human corpse, and and she says, this is the thing I wanted to quote because I wanted to talk about this. She says, there's a look people get when they realize they're going to die. Um, it's that one that the guy has, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so she says that, and she says her hand is shaking because she wanted to shoot him. He's convinced she's serious and offers the van. So she finally puts the gun down and takes the van. All right. So obviously that doesn't
Pretty
do justice to the
serious.
drama of the scene.
Very dramatic scene.
But yeah, it's like a big speech. We already know about her sort of status as the butcher. There was a vague sort of insinuation about that in season one when they were disposing of Adam's body. She had some line like, it's like riding a bicycle.
Right.
It's a shitty bicycle. I don't know, some weird line like. Anyway, like, and the rabbit thing
Yeah.
set it up, and then here, so like the first thought I had, simple TV thought was they can only do this now. Like she couldn't give this speech in season one,
Right.
even though not that much has changed since season one. Like we didn't know as much, and they were playing it a lot more coy in season one. And now that we've seen them eat Jackie, they're not afraid to have her give a speech about peeling human skin. Like it's clear it's like the future knows where the flashback is,
Yeah.
which doesn't really make sense. The whole flashback's already happened for her, right? She knows the whole thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just one of those things where it's like once the audience knows, you
Yeah.
can cross that line, but before it doesn't, you have to kind of play it
Yeah.
coy
Yeah.
and kind of insinuate and be vague about everything. And
Hmm.
it just seemed to me like yeah, like a clear sign that like we've reached a certain point in the flashbacks that we're not gonna like pretend like we're just gonna have her say she did this stuff straight up. And to me, that line that I read, that was actually the most striking line. This line about the look people get when they know they're going to die. I was like, oh, that's something we haven't seen in the flashback. That is pointing the way towards Pit Girl and the idea that they murdered people to eat them.
Yeah.
I heard this one podcast. I want to give them credit because it was a fun podcast, but all their names are vaguely similar and I get them confused. Anyway, sorry, unknown podcast. You were good. Anyway, someone on there referred to it as soft cannibalism,
Hmm.
like what they've done so far, because Jackie was already dead and she died of her own accord. It wasn't that they killed her.
Yeah.
It's hard cannibalism when you murder someone and then eat them.
Yeah.
And Shauna's line here really insinuates that that's a thing that they did, so much so that she's like, there's a look people get when they know they're going to die. It wasn't just one time,
Right.
you know? To me, when I thought more about it, I was like, oh, wow, there's really implications here of like, she's acknowledging like more, not just about cannibalism, but about murder, like, and saying like, I want to shoot you right now,
Yeah.
like it's really pushing things to a point that you know it, in season one like would have been really shocking,
Yeah.
but like we just reached a certain point in the show where it's just a little bit beyond
Hmm.
what we've been offered in terms of what happened in the past and what they went through,
Yeah. Yeah.
aside from the first scene of the show obviously, which is like the
Hmm.
I mean, we don't know how deep that is, but it was winter time. It seems like there's a decent chance it's the second winter. I think because I feel like progressing to that this winter seems too fast.
Yeah.
I feel like they're gonna have a winter, then they're gonna have a summer, and maybe they'll take the summer off from cannibalism because the animals come back. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But they have to live through another summer.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know. That's what's looming.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe they'll like preserve some of the game that they catch, like jerkify it or something, so that they don't have to eat yet more people.
Right. But then
But
like
then they
Misty eats it all like the plate of deviled eggs and then they have to go back to cannibalism.
oh boy.
Just saying. All right. So anything else about this scene?
No, I mean it was an intense scene, and yeah, like you said, it points toward the worse it's about to get.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, it's very much a character scene because I think like well, we'll see. But I feel like this van plot doesn't really matter. Like it's just kind of business to get
Yeah,
Shauna
it's a
doing
character
something
scene.
and to illustrate, yeah, like where she is like mentally, but it's not, but I do feel like that speech and the implications about the flashback are probably the most pertinent thing in the scene in terms of the show going forward, aside from the character stuff, obviously, which
Hmm.
like she's on the edge here, like ready to do. She just did a murder last week or whatever, and like she's
Yeah,
ready to do another one. It's like, damn, Shauna.
it's like
Anyway,
riding a really fun bicycle.
chill out, all right. Go visit Lottie or something. Maybe she can help. Um, More on that later. Okay, so then we go to a shot of the woods from above, out of nowhere. It's one of those shots. And then into the VHS Delirium Dream. Uh, Ben decided not to go to nationals with the team after all, and he's decided to move in with Paul. and he sees a news story about the plane going missing. And this is when we realize, I guess, that this particular scene at least couldn't have happened. And it's going on in his head,
Right.
and he could have been reliving it up to a point, but then it turns into a fantasy or something, or a
Hmm.
wish fulfillment of like, yeah, I really blew it. I really shouldn't have gone on that plane. That was
Right.
bad in multiple ways. I
Yeah.
gave up my whole relationship for this so I could sit here and get eaten. Like, that's basically where we are here, right?
Yep. That is where we are.
But it is interesting that he imagines a news story about the plane going. I don't know. There's something strange about that. It's realistic. It's very, plausible, but it's also, I don't know, it pushes things into a weird place to have a fantasy sequence about a news story about the plane going missing. I don't know. I don't know. Something weird about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Are you
Yeah, it's a little bit like a sort of Flash Sideways kind of
yeah,
like
very much like Flash
alternate
Sideways.
stuff.
What could have
Yeah.
been? Yeah. Yeah. Flash Sideways. That's a good take for that. That is very much what it's like. If he had a Flash Sideways, it would probably start like that.
Hmm.
I don't think there's going to be a Flash Sideways on the show, right?
And like and like the scene when you see the news coverage of the of Flight 815 underwater,
Yeah.
where it's like
Right.
you're watching news footage of something that you've been spending all this time with.
Yeah. 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 But it's just an extra level that he's imagining it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In the case of Lost, like it really happened.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, I mean, I'm sure there really were news stories, but it couldn't have been that one because he didn't see that story.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And there's no way he could accurately predict precisely what a news story about the crash would look like, right? I don't know. Maybe he has powers that I haven't given him credit for, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a great news story predictor. It's hard to like monetize that talent,
It's too bad.
So I'm just saying. All right.
Things could have gone very differently for him if he'd have figured out a way to monetize that skill.
I agree. And in today's
Yeah,
age, who
no,
knows? Maybe he was
it's
just born in the wrong decade. Like maybe he could
yeah,
have made something for
yeah,
himself in our modern times, doing like deep fakes and stuff,
yeah.
you
There you
know?
go.
It's like, oh, it seems so real. In fact, it was exactly like this real thing. I don't know
I'm
what the value in that is. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
same. No, I don't really have anything to add on this.
Okay.
It just his continued decline.
Yeah.
And it's
I
very
mean,
sad.
it's very sad. Yeah. It's hard to yeah, I think probably at this point in the show he's the most miserable character
Yeah, definitely.
by far. There's some misery on the show, but yeah, I don't think anyone's quite on this level at this point. Okay, so we go back to the cabin. I mean, he's in the cabin, so we're still in the cabin if you like. Van gives Shauna a changing TP in case it's a boy. Um, Misty's gift is to perform a monologue from Steel Magnolias. And she does so. At first, they kind of laugh, but then the scene gets serious, and Misty's pretty good at acting, apparently. And in the middle of this, Travis checks on Ben, but Ben's just totally out of it and doesn't respond at all. Misty ends the monologue with gusto, and they all cheer, and Misty smiles, and this is the end of the scene.
It's a weird scene. I have not seen Steel Magnolias. I'm glad that they had the line that it was about the death of a child.
I think they put that in there for the people who didn't know the movie because it's possible that I saw it, but it's been so long, I really wouldn't have remembered the context of that speech at all.
Crystal's acting coach is so good that just one line of advice from him makes Misty an incredible actor.
Yeah. Yeah, so that scene really reminded me of the audition scene from Mulholland Drive. Like it had a really similar structure in that, I mean, in the case of Mulholland Drive, sort of the joke is the scene sucks, but she makes it good by acting well. And so like at first the lines are dumb and so that's why it's kind of silly, but then like gradually it becomes a serious scene through sheer force of acting. That's not really the same as the scene, but still it starts off with like they're laughing at her and then by the end they're all like enraptured by her
Yeah, yeah,
and they're like truly applauding her performance at the end,
yeah,
you know? Like that's what it felt like. Like no one
yeah.
expects much and then suddenly they're all blown away,
Yeah, it's a
you
really
know?
cringy idea, but yeah, she nails it.
Yeah,
It
it's
is
like
kind of embarrassing, I find, watching people performing. It's too vulnerable, it's such a vulnerable thing that it embarrasses you to watch. But then, if it's really compelling, then you lose that sense of discomfort with the vulnerability. Never mind the fact that she's just I mean, she's such a oh boy. I mean, it's an absurd thing to do, but it's absurd to have a baby shower in in
yeah,
this context anyway.
yeah.
So yeah, but I do think this, like, okay, so she's an incredibly skillful actor at a young age. What does that mean about what we see from her? I mean, because she's always had that, like, weird on the edgeness, like unstable, untrustworthy kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, so there's a bit shortly after this where, you know, she tells Walter the lie about Adam Martin.
Yeah,
And I thought like it partially it's a setup
it's
for
a yeah,
that. That like she's like, you know, he was an addict and I know his mother and it would, you know, like,
yeah.
but
But there are other times when she seems to be like a really bad liar.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, somewhere in there, maybe you don't know how much of that is a put on, and you know, she really can like convincingly portray emotion if she wants to. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, it also made me realize that something I just inherently enjoy in almost any context. I mean, if it's well done, of course. I mean, not, you know, a crappy, but I like seeing actors acting.
Yeah,
You know, I think there's something interesting about an actor playing a character who's acting.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like there's a I don't know. It almost reminds me of the thing from Face Off, you know, which I didn't enjoy the movie really, but I did like the idea of you know John Travolta playing Nicolas Cage playing John Travolta.
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah,
there's something interesting about that as an acting challenge. Like it isn't you're not acting,
right.
you're acting the part of a character who's acting.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, I don't know. Anyway,
yeah. It's
it's
tricky, I would think.
Hamlet, right? Come on. You know, there's something.
What does this have to do with Hamlet?
Well, there's a whole thing about the play
Oh, the
in
play in
Hamlet.
Hamlet.
There's
Right, right,
actors acting in Hamlet.
right, right.
You know, he even does a full speech. You know,
Hmm.
when the actors show up. You know, like
Right.
it's a whole thing. He writes lines for them, and then they do the thing. You
Hmm.
know. Anyway, just like I'm just saying, there's a tradition of actors
Yes, yes,
acting.
yes.
That's really my point.
I got it.
And I just enjoy that. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, uh, uh, Steel Magnolias, clearly notable drama of the 80s, I believe, late 80s maybe. Um, and oh, the other thing I wanted to say about this is I had to look up what a changing TP was. I really had never heard of this thing. Um,
So they don't pee on you while you're
yeah,
doing
you
the
just kind
growth.
of plop it on, and
Yeah.
yeah, it keeps the pee from spraying. I never heard of such a thing, but I feel like, you know, she says in case it's a boy, but I feel like, you know, it's very clear from the show that Van is all in with Lottie's weirdness, and Lottie believes it's a boy, as implied earlier. So I feel like she believes it's a boy because Lottie does, and that's why she made the thing. That's my assumption.
I mean, I don't know if Lottie's going around telling people that that she has this vision that's gonna be a boy. I
Maybe
mean,
not.
we're
Maybe
gonna
it's
have to
just a
see.
coincidence, but I just feel like there's potential there that that's the reason. I also feel like there's potential that she's in Lottie's camp somewhere in the present day.
Oh, interesting.
If Van's still alive, I mean, we don't know. Maybe Lauren Ambrose is there playing a redheaded character who's Van's secret identical twin, even though she didn't survive. You know, she's like Fan or something. You
Yeah,
know, Fanessa,
Vanessa. It's a common.
if you
It's a
will.
fairly common name.
Vanny and Fanny, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
All
That's what they
right.
used to
I'm
call.
just saying.
Yeah,
No, but I just I feel like there's a thing there, and I will come back to
yeah.
that.
Let's come back to
I
it.
will come back to that
You're on the record.
immediately, actually,
Oh, okay.
as we go into the next scene. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So we go to adult Ty in the bathroom.
Ugh.
She takes a pill and looks in the mirror, and when she turns her back, the reflection doesn't turn but looks at her menacingly. Ty turns around and sees the bad one mouthing something. Ty doesn't understand and says, "Tell me what you want." The bad one puts her hands around her left eye. Ty leaves the bathroom and talks to So Yun. I had to look this up. The campaign manager, who says she's free of blame for the car wreck. The tox report was mostly clear, and Ty wants her keys for her car and takes them and walks away, getting on the phone with Jessica Roberts. That was something I didn't write here because I didn't notice that the first time or the second time, but merely the third time. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think you stated earlier what your interpretation was of the eye thing, but uh,
You have a different one.
I do. And the first reason I don't think it's that is that she immediately is just leaving the hospital.
Yeah, I interpreted it as I have to get the fuck out of here before
Oh,
I hurt Simone.
so I was assuming that she was going to do the thing that she interpreted the I thing to mean, and I'll tell you what I think it
Going
is.
to Lottie's camp.
Well, it might be going to Lottie's camp, but what I really thought more specifically is go to Van. Like, because Van had that,
Oh,
the side, that side of her face
the
was the side that got eaten, and she made
oh.
that mask
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
where the eye was like this. I thought it
Oh,
was a reference to the mask.
interesting.
I could be wrong, but that was my interpretation that she took it to mean go to Van, and that's why she takes the car and leaves. She's going to go to Van. Now, if Van's at Lottie's camp, then she's going to Lottie's camp, but maybe Van's somewhere else and she's going there. Who knows? But
Very
that was my interpretation of that. Assuming Van's still alive, we certainly don't know. We have no reason to
Yeah,
think
that's
Van's
interesting.
alive.
Yeah, you know, okay.
I'll tell you what else I'm excited about. If Van's still alive, I feel like there's a chance we get a little more post rescue stuff. Because when they showed Lottie the first time earlier in the season,
Yeah.
we got post crash
Yeah,
Lottie.
yeah, yeah.
So maybe we get post crash Van, and we get a little more of that period when they do the reveal. If
I think we
indeed
will.
that's a thing that will happen.
I think we will. On both of those accounts. That's interesting. Well, I can't wait to find out what.
But maybe she's just supposed to cut out Simone's eyes, and it's got nothing to do with Van. I really don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't know.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
never even occurred to me that that's what it meant because I just wasn't even thinking along those lines at all.
I wasn't thinking literally like take her eyes, but like a reference to killing her, like
Okay,
the reference to the grandmother scene of like don't take my eyes,
right,
and
right.
then
Ah, yeah,
the
right, right.
um
And the funeral
and the
thing, and she
funeral.
looks at her eyes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. There's something there. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not discounting your theory at all.
We'll
I
see.
just had a different one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Um, huh. Bad idea. All of this, all of it, bad, bad. What is she doing?
Bad, bad,
Bad,
bad.
bad, bad. Is there just the one scene left?
Oh, there's quite a few more scenes.
Oh, okay.
I got this much left.
I was just trying to think of like what
It does.
else.
This is the last Thai scene,
Yeah,
or adult Thai scene, I should say.
yeah,
This is where we end things. The mirror thing is interesting.
yeah.
Like you know, just from the audience point of view, it's strange. It's strange for me to even conceptualize it because I feel like there's no way. I feel like it's hard to interpret it. What am I trying to say? You know, what am I trying to say? She turns her back on the mirror, and we see the mirror image of her doesn't turn and looks at her. She didn't see that. So I'm just like, how could how could it be possible that that didn't happen? You know, because the only way it makes sense to me that it didn't happen is if she saw it. Because if she didn't see it, then how did she? You know what? She imagined that the mirror behind her didn't move. Like, really? Like, I don't know. To me, that's just hard to believe.
Yeah, directors love this move. It's in all these horror movies. It is scary, it's creepy. I read nothing into it but style.
I mean, that's fair. It's just the thing that was interesting about it, aside from, the mirror magic of it all, is it's the bad one communicating with Thaisa,
Yeah.
which she doesn't do normally.
I really wanted to lip read that
I can,
scene.
I can tell you what a bunch of podcasts thought she said,
What, yeah, do.
if you want to know.
Yeah.
And did that influence my theory? Yes. So a bunch of podcasts, and I looked when we watched it again, and it was convincing that it could have been this, is that she said, go to her.
I thought I thought it might have said go to her. Yeah. Um
So that did play a part in reinforcing, but I actually, even before I heard the podcast, just from the eye thing, I actually thought it was a Van reference.
okay.
But if it's go to her, then I would think that that also means go to Van. That, like, maybe Van, I mean, this is the implication from the flashback, like maybe Van helped her somehow to deal with the bad one in the wilderness
Um,
times. And now that her bad one's getting out of control again, it's like go to her, although the bad one's telling her to go there.
yeah.
So I don't know if that makes any sense,
Yeah, I don't either.
but or maybe she actually enabled the bad one to be even badder. And I don't know. Anyway, I all right. The whole thing I'm saying just falls apart the more I think about it. But I don't know how to take it. Maybe
I
it
mean,
wasn't the bad one in the mirror. I don't
I feel
know.
like
She said, "What do you want, though?" It must be the bad one in the mirror. All right. I don't know.
go to Lottie.
I'm. It could be go to Lottie as well. It doesn't have to be go to Van, because it's
Yeah.
if it's go to her, it's pretty ambiguous that it
Yeah.
could be either thing. Although the eye thing I think connects more to Van than Lottie.
Yeah.
That's the only sort of piece that would nudge me in that direction. Also, she has more of a direct connection with Van than with Lottie.
Yeah.
Thaisa in the flashbacks is not on Team Lottie at all. And they reinforce that in
Yeah.
this episode. Now, does she change her mind at some point? It's possible, but we haven't learned that, and there's certainly no indication of that. The bad one is certainly on Team Lottie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the bad one might want her to go to Lottie. I wouldn't rule that out.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right, ready for the next bit here?
Mhm.
Okay, so we go to Walter's boat. They discuss the purple people. Misty realizes they could have used a credit card to buy Fanta because that's what they buy, and they can track them this way. Walter asks about Misty's downvoting his Adam Martin post, and Misty lies and says she knows Adam's mother and he was an addict. Walter admits that it wasn't his mother in the nursing home. And Misty wonders why he wanted to meet her so much, and he says he's a bored Moriarty looking for his Sherlock, and that's the place he ends things. So I hate just responding to podcasts, and I say I hate it. I do it all the time, and I did in the old days too. I'm gonna respond to some podcasts here. A lot of people took this as an insinuation of Walter's true intentions, that he describes himself as Moriarty. you know.
Yeah.
I think that it's definitely possible that he has motives beyond what he's told us, and there's something else going on here, and he could turn out to be some kind of villainous character. I wouldn't rule that out. Okay, not ruling it out. However, comma, you know, I think in that context, it's like if he's gonna say Misty is Sherlock, right? He's not going to put himself as Watson, the boring sidekick who does little to nothing but
Right.
watch Sherlock work. He's going to want to elevate himself to someone on Sherlock's level. So I just feel like you could still write that line, and he doesn't mean I'm gonna like bring you down. He doesn't mean I'm gonna be a serial criminal or whatever.
Right.
He just means we're on the same level. We're rivals that are
Like intellectual rivals in
yeah,
this space.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was kind of that, especially because he sort of says it like he's got a crush on her,
Yes.
and so I think, yeah, I don't listen to those podcasts, but yeah, I think yeah, I already shared my suspicions about him, but I don't think he's nefarious like a Moriarty type.
Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, do you have speculation about what his true intentions are? What his goals are? Like, why?
I mean, I think he has the hots for her. I mean, that's what television writing indicates.
I
But
agree. I,
I
I
mean,
I
I think
agree.
that
But
he
is there
does
more than
know
that?
that she's a yellow jacket, and
Yeah.
I think that he is interested in getting up close and personal
Wait,
with
are
a
we
yellow.
just doing Adam Martin again? Like, there's got to be another angle, right?
I think there's a number of directions that they could go with him. I think it could turn out that he is gonna he doesn't believe her line about Adam Martin, that he is suspicious of her, but I don't think that the Moriarty line, I don't read that into the Moriarty
Oh,
line.
I agree. I agree. I totally agree.
um
Totally agree. I'm just,
I
I'm
think
just
it's sort of
wondering.
early to tell, but I think that he's gonna make progress on the Adam thing, yeah.
Okay, it pushed that storyline. So maybe
Yeah.
he has to die if he learns the truth. I don't know.
Or they could try to throw him under the bus for it. I don't
Oh
know.
man, oh man, you killed that.
But I mean, this is where
I
I
didn't
don't
even know Adam Martin.
this is where it's like I don't want to watch a show that is like Dexter, where anytime somebody becomes a threat, you just know that they're going to end up having it killed, and then they're
Right.
going to just dispose of that body. Like I don't want to watch that show. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I hope that it doesn't get in the way with get in the way of what I actually enjoy about the show.
I mean, to me, it's just if he learns the truth, there's two ways it could go. He dies, or he's willing to accept the truth and like let it go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll
You
see. We'll
know,
see.
like he's happy just knowing what happened, and he doesn't actually need to bring it to the police. He's clearly willing to work outside the bounds of the law as
Yeah,
established in the episode.
yeah.
So I feel like that's if it doesn't end with his death, then that's the other way they could go with it. Or like they set it up in this episode, like he goes on the run, international waters or whatever,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
without a passport, that whole like thing,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but yeah, I mean, I agree, like, but I mean, I think it's not just Dexter. Like, I just think a lot of shows find themselves in that position where they want to present a threat, they want to present a problem, but at a certain point, the show must go on, right? Like,
Yeah.
every character that presents a problem can't end the show.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, maybe they'll find a way. Maybe they'll find a way. I mean, the funny thing about Adam is he didn't really know shit. He wasn't a threat at all. So he didn't have to die.
Yeah.
He totally didn't have to die.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even like that. Anyway, all right. You ready for the next scene?
Yeah.
Okay. Shauna goes into Callie's room and leaves a toy from the van with her. Jeff comes home and asks about the van. Shauna makes a face.
Ay, ay,
Nice
ay.
quick scene. Just
Mhm.
sort of the aftermath of the van debacle, if you will. A lot of van references in this episode, aren't
Van
there?
heavy.
Vans everywhere. All right. So Misty gets a text. This is Misty sitting at home later. Gets a text from Walter saying the credit card was from Cherry Quarters, New York, and suggests a road trip. So I mean, that's obviously Lottie's camp, right? So I think this is telling us where Lottie's camp is. I don't know if this is actually a real place, but the implication would be that it's like somewhere in upstate New York. It's some by some lake,
Yeah.
scenic like wilderness. There's plenty of places like that in
Hmm.
upstate New York. Not like I've ever lived there. Not like when I started the Lost Lowdown, I was
You lived in
living
Cherry
in
Corners,
Cherry Corners.
dressed in heliotrope, making smoothies with the wrong supplement.
So yeah, they're clear they're gonna go to Lottie's camp. So that's the next day. That's a weird thing. It really doesn't seem like he's on the trail of Adam Martin at all. It seems like he's on this Natalie Lottie trail right now. So it's gonna have to take a turn. Obviously it can, but I'm just saying. All right. So then we go over to Lottie's camp. What a coincidence. They're doing some kind of group therapy session. Lottie wants Natalie to participate, or Natty, if you prefer, to participate. She tries to refuse, but eventually gives in. Nat refuses to process something with the group, so Lottie brings Lisa up to confront Nat about stabbing her with the fork, giving her the moniker Fork Lady. Lisa's mad that they saved Nat's life only to get stabbed. Lottie suggests that she feel her anger and hands Lisa a fork to hurt Natalie back. Lisa thinks about it, but eventually drops the fork, hugs Nat, and forgives her. So, yeah, so this is a weird. I mean, this is where like this is where like Lottie's like philosophy gets weird. And I think it is consistent with the flashbacks where she was like, "No, what Shauna's doing is fine," and like it's good that she's talking to her dead friend and putting makeup on her, and it's good that she wanted to eat her secretly, and like she's like whatever you gotta do, to deal with your problems, it's fine. If you gotta stab Natalie with a fork, go ahead and do it. Like it's just weird because the
Yeah.
vibe is so not that.
I think she knows that she won't stab her.
You think that's the idea?
Yeah, I mean, I also
It's
think
just so strange to literally
I
give
also
her a
think she
fork.
knows that Nat wouldn't let her
Yeah,
stab her with the fork.
obviously. Yeah. I mean, definitely the scene with the axe like showed like, yeah, I'm not intimidated by you. If you
Yeah,
think you're scaring me by cutting off a chicken's head, that's not the worst thing I've ever seen.
yeah.
So yeah, okay, fair enough. But I still think it just for a therapy session, it's a weird thing to do. It's like hand her a fork, you
You
know?
know, her methods are
Unorthodox, would you
unorthodox
say?
and effective.
I see. Okay, she gets the job done, and that's what
Yeah.
matters. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, it seems like we've reached a reconciliation, and perhaps maybe Lisa has some more. Maybe she'll be more forthcoming, or she'll have some more pertinent information about Lottie and the way she does things. She was the one, I think, yeah, she was the one who brought the shake
Yeah.
for or smoothie, I guess, for Lottie that was like the wrong kind. And she
Yeah.
like kind of snapped at her about it. And it's like this weird moment. And she's talking about her cabin being locked and I feel like maybe she could end up being Natalie's like ally in trying to figure out what's going on with Lottie, or if not ally, at least unknowing ally.
Maybe.
Like if she's actually forgiven Natalie, like maybe now she can leverage that to
I
get
don't see
access to
Natalie
something.
connecting with people, even to
She can
use.
pretend to.
Yeah, well, like Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's not above that.
No, she's not.
Seems
She's
possible.
not, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
She
I don't
she
know.
put she put her blood on Javi's clothes, and she could do some manipulation when she wants.
Oh, I didn't say that she doesn't manipulate. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I'm just I'm trying to speculate about where
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like where they could go with this. And it seems like they're set up for that if they want to
It
go
could happen.
there. So I'm just, I like to make predictions so that I can either be wrong or, more importantly, right.
Indeed. Indeed.
Okay, so I just wanted to know oh, sorry. No, that's the next scene is the thing I want to know something about. I don't want to know anything else about this scene. Ready for the next scene
Yeah.
on which I will have a note?
Oh, yes. Let's get to that.
Okay, so we're back to the cabin. Lottie gives Shauna a blanket with a symbol on it.
Oh my god.
Best baby shower gift ever. Nat asks about the symbol and why would you do that. Lottie thinks it was for protection and says the famous line, just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's evil. Many of the group speak in support of Lottie at this point and her ways. Suddenly, Shauna's nose starts bleeding. Ty goes to her and they hear thumping on the cabin. And they go outside to find a big pile of birds that flew into the cabin. Shauna drops the blanket. Misty theorizes that iron in the ground messed with the bird's navigation. Lottie says, we should gather its blessings. One of the weirder lines of the episode. Ty and Shauna, probably Nat, don't participate, but we specifically see that Ty and Shauna don't gather the blessings, as it were. But many of the others place the birds at Lottie's feet.
Oh, this is
Weird ass scene. We
yes.
get the symbol again. She bleeds on the symbol.
Drop of blood right in the middle.
We'll come back to that in the next scene, which is actually the last scene. In terms of like the blood connection.
Yeah.
Um and then the birds fly into the
Yeah,
cabin.
yeah. So this is another reason why Laura Lee had to die
A lie.
because there are more conventional protective symbols that have been embraced by other cultures, perhaps even like more mainstream ones than the one that you're inventing based on a symbol that you found surrounding a dead person. Because Natalie's reaction is absolutely the correct one.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, there is
I
no
think we're supposed to agree
reason
with
to
that.
believe that this is a protective symbol because you found it surrounding a dead guy.
Yeah.
And if he was using it to protect himself, it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like the response to this line about just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's evil is you don't understand it either.
Just because you don't understand
D-
something doesn't
doesn't
mean
mean
it
it's
is.
protection.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you don't understand it any more than I do. So don't
yeah.
pretend like you know what it is. Like
Yeah, when that thudding started, I thought that that was like coming from the attic.
I did too. I did too. When I watched it the first time,
Yeah.
I 100% thought there was some shit going on in the attic, and I'm like,
You're
oh
like,
boy,
"Mm, demon
yikes,
spirit's been awakened by
yikes.
the blood on the
I never
symbol."
predicted that, yeah, what it actually was, because it's such a strange thing. And it's like, what a coincidence. Like, okay, I don't know. It's a raging debate in the fan community about like how supernatural is the show. And it's like,
Yeah.
when things like this happen, it's like, it's a real stretch here, to like take this as like no, I mean, so this is my note about this. I believe this is the most lost scene of this episode, right down to Misty offering a boring explanation for the seemingly bizarre event. Not to mention that this exact thing happened in Lost, birds flying into a building under mysterious circumstances. In that case, it was related to Walt. But like I was just like, this could have been a scene in Lost if they actually had a cabin, and like they totally could have done this exact thing and they would have had the same follow-up of like these characters choose to interpret it this way and these characters are like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe it's just a weird thing that's normal,
Yeah.
like it's just a coincidence, and the blood on the blanket doesn't really mean anything and she just got a nosebleed because sometimes it happens and it's cold outside and she was just
Yeah.
her nose was dry and like sometimes you get a nosebleed when
Yeah.
it's cold, like And it's like we should gather. It's but like so so Lottie is interpreting it that the god of the woods, whatever the fuck she's calling it here, is sending them blessings in the form of birds. I guess they're gonna eat the birds. I mean, that might actually help Ben in the short term if they eat the
I think they
birds.
should eat the birds. I mean, they.
I think they should eat the
I also think
birds.
whoever it is who's like, don't touch them, they might be diseased, is also right.
Yeah, yeah, it's a valid
And
point.
also, like, they're starving to death,
Yeah,
so they should eat these birds. What they really shouldn't do is just gather them into a some sort of a pile of sacrificial whatever and like just leave use them
that's
symbolically.
like an
Like,
altar or something. Yeah,
yeah, like keep their
yeah,
feathers for some ritualistic purpose, fine, but you should
yeah.
really eat those
Yeah,
birds.
if they're not eating the birds next week, I'm gonna be really shocked because if they're like, no, we can't eat the birds. They're for the altar. We gotta eat
But
Coach
like
Ben.
they call them right, they call them blessings though, which may it doesn't really sound like they're gonna eat them. But
I
you know,
agree. But you could, I mean, theoretically, it could be a blessing of food. That's a thing.
okay, yeah,
It could, I'm just saying it could be, but I agree that it like the way they presented it didn't make it seem like that's what they're gonna do. But
yeah,
it's just like if they don't try that, it's like what's wrong with you people? Like
yeah,
at least Natalie or someone reasonable should suggest it.
yeah,
Even if like for whatever reason they're overruled because a lot of them are like believing in Lottie at this point.
right, yeah,
Which they're slowly building and establishing the scene. Like a lot of the care. Oh,
yeah,
Lottie, she knows things. Like we, you know and like it's basically down to like Ty and the bad one's totally fine, but the actual Thaisa doesn't buy into it, and Natalie doesn't buy into it. But it kind of seems like everybody else. I mean, probably Coach Ben doesn't, but not that he matters at this point. But
yeah.
it seems like basically everyone else is like, yeah, Lottie knows what she's doing. We should follow her. We should make her some kind of
Mm, hmm.
some kind of monarch of the horns, horned monarch,
Horned monarch,
if you
yeah,
will. So yeah, I think that makes it an interesting progression. I definitely, I don't know. This scene was just weird as hell, and this is where we end things in the past in this
yeah.
episode, and I don't even know what to think.
Watch this space.
Watch the space. That's all I can say. Watch the space. All right. So, are you ready for the last scene?
I'm ready.
We're going over to Lottie's camp. Lottie, by herself, goes to the beehive and sees, or the bee box, and sees dead bees on top of it. And she opens it up. She pulls out the frame, and she finds that it's full of blood. And she cries and rubs her hands on it, holding them up. And then she hears a voice say, "Il veut du sang." Not pronounced super well, by the way. But whatever. It was probably a Canadian who said it. No offense.
Ooh.
Not one from Quebec, but the other parts. Anyway, she but then she looks over and one of her acolytes. This is what the subtitles call this person. Says, "Are you joining for lunch?" That's what she actually said. Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
thought you said il veut du sang.
Mm-hmm.
No, are you
It's
joining for launch?
they're very similar. Uh, yeah,
And at this point, we realize that there's no blood in the frame. She realizes it was all some kind of hallucination, and the bees are fine.
mm, yeah, yeah.
Weird ass scene to end
Weird
things.
scene to end on.
Like it shows that like
What?
Lottie is troubled.
What?
Like
Yeah.
whatever image she's putting out to the world, like she is still haunted by something, and that's kind of interesting because of all the characters, the way she's been portrayed, it seemed like she had it the most together of any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Except for maybe Misty, who's just always on the edge. So it's almost normal for her to be like that.
Right.
But the rest of the characters, like they're just like falling apart. Natalie's about to kill herself. Shauna's like about to go on a murder rampage. Thais is like spinning out of control with her, the bad one. It's like it's it's a mess, you know. But it seemed like Lottie's like at peace, and she's in an environment that is similar to the woodsman, right? So she's like in touch with, you know, the her self that she was then, you know. So it isn't the same as the others where they're in this environment that's like totally removed from that, you know. She's There's still like this element of, you know, living in the wilderness, like, you know, having yeah, they're like killing chickens and stuff,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. It's like
yeah, yeah.
almost a sort of more civilized form of what they were doing, you know. but but still like in touch with nature, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, in touch with nature.
But like this scene show was like there's
Yeah, and so what
it's
does
not
this?
enough. Like there's
Yeah,
still something. Is it just that Natalie came back? I don't know. This scene made me wonder. It's the first we it's aside from that speech that she gives in the first episode where we see her just make a speech to her group by herself. It's the only other scene we had with her by herself, you know. And it's interesting. Il veut du sang, like, you know, didn't you already get enough song? Like, how much more song do you want? Like, you know, like, damn,
yeah.
is
It's and is this a reference to the idea of, multiple queens would make the colony unhealthy, people would
yeah,
starve?
yeah, yeah.
Is this a reference to that analogy from earlier? Yeah, it
It is
is.
the
It's
bees.
the bees. It is disturbing. We'll, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to say about that was, I think this part it actually started in the previous scene, but I think this Tori Amos song they used at the end probably the most inspired musical choice in the show so far for me. Number two would probably be "Come Out and Play" from the reunion.
Yeah,
Like that was a great moment. That was more like the fun
yeah,
version, and this was like the creepy,
yeah,
haunting version, you know. But I just feel like why doesn't every movie use this song? Like it so fit the thing perfectly, and just even the words work
yeah,
because like I said earlier, it reinforced this idea I have of like the past story as this Greek tragedy. We know what's going to happen. You can't stop what's coming.
yeah,
Like it's going to end there,
yeah,
you know? And it really seems like it really reinforces that, like not just atmospherically, but specifically,
yeah,
you know, and it's overlaid with this haunting of the past, you know. That was the thing she said during the seance, you
yeah.
know, and she imagines hearing that, you know, from someone nearby. And so anyway, I thought that was a great scene to end it. I really liked this episode.
Yeah.
I think this was probably my favorite episode of the season so far. It really did it for me on a number of levels, and I'm very excited to watch the next episode, which we will do
We're
shortly.
gonna do it.
All right, let's turn it on.
Yeah,
Who's ready?
yeah, let's watch it together with you. Yeah, no, it was a great episode. It hit a lot of different kinds of notes. It had a good balance of characters, character scenes, plot scenes. Like, yeah, and yeah, the music. I love the music in the show, as I've said before, but I agree with the use of the Tori Amos song. It was great. uh,
Yeah,
and not too on the nose, but definitely,
yeah,
um,
yeah, 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 yeah.
because sometimes it's like, okay,
Right, it's too
it's too
literal.
literal.
Yeah,
But yeah, but it does work lyrically as well as
yeah.
just the sound of it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's vague enough that it doesn't feel like they're, you know, like the leftovers thing of like
yeah.
cigarettes, show
Oh my
cigarettes,
gosh.
magazines, show magazines, like stop it.
So, like that scene in The Leftovers, I actually would have loved that scene if not for those shots.
I totally
I think the
agree.
scene is extremely
I
powerful.
totally agree.
Except for those shots, which are terrible.
Totally
I'd
agree.
strangle the person who decided to
I
do that.
totally agree. It's one of the
It
worst editing
really kills it.
decisions I've ever seen.
Because the most powerful version of that, you never cut away from
Yeah,
Justin
yeah.
Theroux singing it.
Yeah,
It's
that's how they
so
should have done it.
raw. Anyway,
It would have been so much better that way.
this is not the Leftovers. Yeah, I thought it was great. I can't wait to talk about the next one after we watch.
Yep, we will see you next time. It'll be sooner than you think.
Whoa. Can't stop what's coming.
All right, until next time.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.